Yes, we are ready. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Madam City Attorney, would you please report out of closed session?
Yes, with all matters except for 6.1.8, Harris versus City of Emeryville, there is no reportable action. As it relates to item 6.1.8, Harris versus City of Emeryville, on a motion made by Councilmember Medina, seconded by Vice Mayor Donahue, the council voted to authorize the city attorney to defend the lawsuit, and that carried 4-0.
Very good, thank you. And this meeting stands adjourned at 6:14 p.m. I'm just going to wait for the clock to turn over 1 minute before I start the next meeting, and I'll additionally wait till the clerk tells me that they are ready to go.
This iPad doesn't let me correctly establish my identity as Norville Rogers, Shaggy. There's no right-clicking here. How can I change my identity to my
We're going to ask the clerk to help you with that.
It's an iPad. I don't have a desktop. Or a crap top, whatever you have to do it. Right-click on. There's no right-clicking here.
All right, I have 6:15, so when the clerk's office is ready, we will convene the next meeting, which is a special study session.
We are ready. Thank you.
Very good. Welcome back, everybody. It is 6:15 p.m. and this is a special study session of the City of Emeryville. Madam Clerk, do we need to read the introductory remarks again?
You may wish to, since there might be a different group of people watching.
Very good, and I shall. I'd like to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to newly enacted Assembly Bill 361. The city was previously complying with Brown Act orders issued by the governor, which were aimed at containing the novel coronavirus and which expired on September 30th. The new bill gives local agencies the authority to continue to host virtual meetings until January 1st, 2024, as long as California is under a governor-declared state of emergency. In order to continue meeting subject to this exemption to the Brown Act, the City Council must make the following findings by majority vote no later than 30 days after it starts using the exemption and every 30 days thereafter. The legislative body has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of emergency and either, 1, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the members to meet safely in person, or 2, state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. The City Council, successor agency, and Mesa Board will consider whether to make these findings at their respective November 2nd, 2021 regular meetings and at meetings at least every 30 days thereafter until the governor lifts the state of emergency. City Hall is open to the public during regular business hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Please check the website for planning and building counter special hours or to make an appointment. The agenda states that the public may view the meeting that's being live streamed online and on ETV channel 27 and provide comment by submitting an online comment form, which will then be read into the record by staff. The comment form can be accessed by going to our main City of Emeryville website at emeryville.org and clicking on Council Agendas and Videos. Once there, you will see a link entitled Submit an Online Speaker Card. The public also has the option of participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and may provide public comment during the meeting using the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press star 9. The Zoom call-in information was provided on the posted agenda, as well as via e-notification and on social media. At this time, I will turn to the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Here.
Councilmember Medina. I didn't hear you, but I can see you.
Here.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Here, but my actual identity is Norville Rogers, a.k.a. Shaggy.
I know, I quickly typed in Shaggy for you. And Mayor Martinez.
I am here as well, and thank you for accepting. We all have dual identities this evening in celebration of the upcoming holiday. Colleagues, is there a motion and a second for approval of the final agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Member Daphne Blake and a second by Vice Mayor Shaggy. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders,
Aye.
Councilmember Medina,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue,
Aye.
and Mayor Martinez.
Aye. For the record, I won't do that again to you, Sherry. Don't worry. Colleagues, are there any ex parte communications to report for this meeting?
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I need to announce that for this entire study session, I am recused from participating in this matter. I own the property located at 4260 Halleck Street in Emeryville, which is within 500 feet of the boundary of the planned unit development for the Bay Street Shopping Center. And under conflicts law, I am unable to participate in this meeting. And I just need to check with the city clerk. Is there an open public comment on this that I should stay for and then I leave? Is there like a general public comment to wait for, or should I go now?
There is a public comment right after the ex parte communications item.
Okay, so I will be re-announcing this when we reach the appropriate item, and I will be leaving at that time.
Do you want me to put you as an attendee at this time?
No, I'll sit through the general public comment if there is any, and then
Okay.
as soon as she reaches the study session item, I will, again, I think I have to announce it again at that item, and then I will leave.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then are you, Member Bowders, would you like to hang up or would you like the clerk to demote you to an attendee?
If she would just demote me to attendee, because I know we'll stay on the same video for the next meetings, and when the study session is ended, she can bring me back. That'd be great.
Very good, thank you. Colleagues, any ex parte communications to report? Member Medina?
Yes, I spoke with Craig Ramey of CenterCal.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
I spoke with Craig also and read numerous emails from the Bay Street residents and other email opinions about the site.
Very good. I also received a few emails from Bay Street residents, and I spoke to Craig Ramey at CenterCal. All right, now is the time for public comment for this meeting. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card or whether anyone has raised their hands to make audio comments.
I do have one online speaker card received from Corey Fiddlewitz, and I was just checking to see if they were also on the call or not. I don't see them, so I will go ahead and read that if the mayor would like me to now.
Yes, please, and you'll have 3 minutes to complete that.
Okay. I have read about plans to open a grocery store in the Bay Street Shopping Center. Although I think that's an odd thing to do with multiple grocery stores already nearby, I suppose that's fine. My concern comes from plans to reshape that area from today's lovely walkable space back into a more car-centered layout. I find this to be the exact opposite direction that I want Emeryville to move in. We have had wonderful successes with adding green space, bike lanes, and other walkability improvements. I am tired of people thinking that Emeryville is just a shopping center and IKEA. I am tired of feeling unsafe walking across our knotted roads full of drivers who just pass through our neighborhoods to avoid traffic. Please don't get rid of the promenade at Bay Street. It's a great place to meet friends before going to dinner or a movie together. There are much better things that we can put there to help us build community, and more cars isn't an improvement. Give us a social center, a concert venue, a Dave & Buster's style barcade, a skating rink, a bowling alley, or something like that. A social space to help us reconnect with our neighbors after the pandemic has isolated us so badly. I understand this is a private space where the owners can do what they like, but I urge the council not to aid them in making the wrong choices for our city. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. And seeing no other public comments at this time, I'll just remind the public there will be an opportunity after the presentations for the public to comment again. So we'll go ahead and close public comment, and I will cede the floor to staff to begin the presentation.
And before we do, I will just re-announce that I am conflicted out of this due to the residency proximity I have to the property. I live at 4260 Halleck Street, and I think that's the requirements I have under law to disclose, so I will be leaving the meeting, and sure, you can boot me to the attendee list. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Bowders, and now I will cede the floor to staff.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council members. This is Miru Desai, Senior Planner. Sherry, if you could bring my presentation up, please.
All right, is everyone seeing that?
Yes, thank you. So next slide, please. So a bit of a background in terms of Bay Street. As you know, Bay Street was approved by the council back in 1999 on a 9-acre parcel, which included a variety of retail, entertainment, and residential uses back in 2000. Some of the last two FDPs that were approved were for the West Elm in 2007, and the Hyatt House was approved in 2014. Next slide, please. So what we are looking at is parcel B. The proposal is to demolish the existing building that houses EQ3 Furniture Store and other retail stores. And this building used to formerly house Old Navy Store and the Elephant Bar. Next slide, please. So they're going to be demolishing the existing building and replacing with a new building about the same size. It will also involve removal of the plaza area, which is right here, and opening up Bay Street to vehicular traffic. Next slide, please. So you have the existing and the proposed site plan. First, I would like to go over the tree removal scheme. There are existing 4 poplar trees behind the existing bus stop. This will be removed. In addition, there are 3 palm trees right here, and these are going to be relocated around the site. In addition to that, the loading area that exists, which is open air, that is going to be replaced by a covered loading area. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the plaza area that is going to be removed and replaced with some teaser parking right here and allowed for vehicular traffic down Bay Street. Next slide, please. So these are the floor plan. It's a 1-story with rooftop parking. The main entry is at the corner here. Next slide, please. In terms of vehicular circulation, there are 2 ways to get onto the rooftop parking. One is coming along Ohlone Way, making a right and going up this ramp. Alternatively, they could keep going down Bay Street, and that is what opening up the Bay Street would occur. Make a turn, maybe get a parking spot here, and if not, then continue on to this entry ramp along here. There are only 1 exit from the rooftop parking, and it is through this means here. Next slide, please. This kind of shows you the trash and the loading, which occurs off Shellmount Street, which is where it exists today as well. And as I noted earlier, the existing is open to the sky. The proposed will be covered. Next slide, please. These are some of the landscaping features that are being proposed. Like I mentioned, these are the 3 palm trees which will be relocated. There'll be some new planting along the bus stop, and there are some more trees and landscaping at the entrance right here. Next slide, please. This kind of shows you the plaza area at the entry. Next slide. And if you zoom out, this is the entry to the grocery store and the plaza area. Next slide, please. And this shows the grocery store looking south. Next slide, please. In addition to the new grocery store, the applicant is also proposing some Bridge Landing Plaza improvements. This is the picture of what it looks like today. Next slide, please. And what they are proposing essentially is a road diet. They're going to be removing one lane of vehicular traffic and converting that into a new multi-use path which would connect the bridge to the Bay Street and Shellmount Street. In addition, there are a few improvements along these corners as well. Next slide, please. And this is what it would look like after these improvements have been made. Next slide, please. So in terms of conformance with the PTP, this involves replacement of different types of retail stores within an 49,000 square foot building with a new 48,446 square foot grocery store, as the type of use remains the same. And the size is approximately the same. The proposed use and building size are consistent with the PDP. Next slide, please. In terms of parking, the project involves provision of 112 parking spaces on the rooftop. This is additional parking that is not contemplated by the PDP, as parking for the retail entertainment uses is provided within the existing garage. This is not considered to be inconsistent with the PDP, since it does not alter the use or the general size of the building on parcel B. The maximum parking that would be allowed by current parking standards would be 213 parking spaces. Next slide, please. In terms of the plaza, the project does involve removal of the existing plaza area between the Barnes & Noble's building and parcel B, and its replacement with surface parking or the teaser parking and vehicular circulation. The PDP plans delineate this area as plaza and provide a section drawing showing the plaza width to be 60 feet in addition to an adjacent roadway that is 54 feet. Next slide, please. And this is the PDP plan showing the plaza area. Next slide, please. And it shows up again in another sheet that shows the plaza. Next slide, please. The applicant suggests that the removal of this plaza is compensated for by a smaller plaza areas near the new building, the enhanced plaza area at the bridge landing, enhanced food terrace area, and future activation of spaces along the northern portion of the Bay Street. And the applicant is going to be going over that in their presentation. Nonetheless, staff believes that the removal of the existing plaza area is a significant deviation from the PDP and would require a PDP amendment. Next slide, please. So one potential way of avoiding this PDP amendment due to the plaza configuration is, and to taking into consideration what the applicant wants for this project, is to keep this on-ramp as proposed, however, keep the Bay Street closed for the rest of the southern portion of the Bay Street. The teaser parking can remain, and what would need to be done is that the configuration and the turning movements around here would need to be modified so that there's an additional entry to the rooftop plaza by making a left turn this way. Next slide, please. So this is the gamut of the PDP findings that would need to be made if a PUD amendment is needed. These are vastly more broad in scope than what an FTP finding is needed. FTP findings basically require the decision-making body to find the project's consistency with general plan and the PDP. Next slide, please. So this project was reviewed by staff at the September 19th DCC meeting. The EDH and City Manager's Office noted that there is a high vacancy rate at Bay Street, and a grocery store typically is known to trigger revitalization of a mall. Grocery store proprietors are aware of this and tend to demand a store configuration and provision of parking and a circulation pattern that is tailored to their needs. Next slide. Public Works staff noted that the proposed circulation and opening of the south end of the Bay Street to vehicular traffic would create increased conflicts between vehicles, bicycles, and pedestrians. They also noted that a transportation study is likely to identify a need for a traffic signal at Bay Street and Ohlone Way. Next slide, please. The police staff stated that the existing circulation creates multimodal congestion during busy weekend and holiday seasons, and the proposal would further exacerbate the situation. Next slide, please. Given the identified modal conflicts, the applicant's proposal for the two vehicular entries into the building plus teaser surface parking in front of the building, it was suggested that the relocated plaza concept could be a compromise that would retain these features and will provide a large pedestrian plaza space. Next slide, please. And this sort of tells you what they will be removing, and if they keep the Bay Street closed, then it's roughly the same size as the existing plaza. Next slide, please. In addition, the Alameda County Fire noted that the applicant needed to verify whether the proposed cycle track in addition to Ohlone Way would meet the turning radius needed for fire access. Environmental Services staff also noted that the project would need to provide a discards plan as the project is further refined, and the project would need to comply with the applicable stormwater provisions. Next slide, please. The Planning Commission reviewed this project at a study session at their September meeting. 3 Bay Street residents spoke at the study session. All 3 were excited about the proposed use. However, concerns were expressed about reopening Bay Street to vehicular traffic, removal of the plaza area, and the increased intermodal conflicts that the project would make. 4 written comments were also received, and these were included in the council staff report. Next slide, please. All the commissioners liked the proposed use and expressed that the need for a grocery store in this part of town. Concerns were, however, expressed regarding intermodal circulation and removal of the plaza. One commissioner noted that the plaza is used by children with their families, as well as a space for hosting large events. Several commissioners supported the staff's suggestion of keeping Bay Street closed to vehicle south of the proposed ramp, and said it was a good compromise between the needs of the grocery store proprietor and the desire to retain the plaza area. The commission agreed that if the applicant supported a staff suggestion regarding the plaza into the design, it would preclude the need for a PDP amendment. Next slide, please. The project was reviewed by BPAC at their October 4th meeting. 1 Bay Street resident spoke at the meeting, who said that the proposed circulation of vehicles would create intermodal conflicts, and recommended that the southern portion of the Bay Street not be open to vehicles. The speaker noted that the teaser parking at Berkeley Bowl made it difficult for cyclists and pedestrians to maneuver around the store. Other comments included assessment of existing transit amenities and potential improvements to the bus stops, and providing a car space for electric scooters. Next slide, please. All committee members stated that the use was exciting and would be a good addition. However, the committee felt that the proposal was car-centric and that the loss of the plaza was unfortunate, as it is one of the few gathering places in Emeryville. It was suggested that the applicant consider only one exit and entrance to the rooftop parking and keep the southern portion of Bay Street closed to vehicles. And the comments related to the transit amenities, improvements, and bus stops were from the BPAC committee members and not by the Bay Street resident. Next slide, please. So some of the issues to be considered by the council for which we are looking for input is the proposal involves the removal of plaza area and opening of the south end of the Bay Street to vehicular traffic. Does the commission support such an amendment? Does the commission agree with staff's suggestion of keeping Bay Street close to vehicular traffic south of the proposed rooftop parking entry ramp and creating a new relocated plaza in this area? Does the council have any input regarding the choice of materials, colors, and proposed design? And does the council agree with the proposed plans regarding relocating palm trees? Next slide, please. That ends my presentation. The applicant does have an extensive presentation as well. And after receiving public testimony, staff requests that the council provide a comment on the issues noted above, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Very good, thank you. Colleagues, are there any questions for staff at this time before we hear the developer's presentation? No, looks like we can go ahead and move forward with the presentation from Senator Cal.
I'm going to allow Craig Ramey. And Craig, once you're on, please unmute and let me know if you need anybody else before we start your presentation.
Good evening. Am I on?
You are. Do you need me to allow any of your other folks to speak at this time?
Jill Nichols, Ken Lowney, Barry Bourbon, and Marco Esposito.
Okay, and one moment, I'll bring up your presentation.
For the record, I want to tell you guys something though. I'm really disappointed that we're not able to see us on Zoom. I went and got a haircut today because I want to look nice. And now I think I'm going to go back to the barber and get my money back.
We'll take your word for it.
He was dressed as a Scooby-Doo villain.
You guys ready for me to get started?
Yes, and just tell me when to advance the slide each time.
Okay, I'm going to talk for a few minutes on this slide and then I'll turn it over. Good evening, Mayor Martinez and City Council members. I've met everybody, but for those that are on the call, my name is Craig Ramey. I'm president of Center Cal Properties for the Pacific Northwest and the Bay Area. Proud to be representing Center Cal Properties, which has a long-standing history of creating thriving shopping centers that serve our communities. We will continue that tradition at Bay Street. Although the overall vision and plan includes adding a grocery store, which staff discussed today, it really involves so much more, including significant improvements to the bridge landing and connectivity to Emeryville Green Way extension, food terrace improvements with outdoor programmable plaza space, repurposing a significant amount of vehicular space for pedestrian and bicycle use, introducing food and beverage with significant outdoor seating along North Bay Street. These are just parts of the plan, but all very significant and included in our discussion tonight. In addition, we have listened to staff and the Planning Commission and have added a very preliminary plan for discussion this evening. You'll see it in the slide deck. And this really addresses the staff and Planning Commission recommendations as it relates to the Plaza area. So on that, I'll turn it over to Jill. I will say this one more thing though. It's really important, I think, that we all recognize the condition of Bay Street right now. We have a chance to make a difference together. We have a chance to change the narrative at Bay Street, which involves more than this. It involves safety. It involves changes to the parking lot that we're doing and lighting and so much more. But it really needs to get started in earnest and really show everybody, including the existing tenants, that we're going to make a change. So on that, I'll turn it over to Jill Nichols, who can take the next part of the presentation.
Thank you for having us this evening. If you could go to the next slide. I'm Jill Nichols. I'm representing Center Cal, and I have 30 years of experience creating relevant retail properties that aim to improve the visitor experience, which is what we're discussing tonight. You all should understand that our objective is to revitalize Bay Street, to be safe, to be active and accessible, to serve the daily needs of our expanding neighborhood. Next. We need to pivot an underused property which is in decline through site-wide activations. Our design will establish unique social spaces that are balanced and distributed across the site. And we aim to offer activity options that move from day to night and may include multi-day events. Our improvements begin with our proposed food terrace as a common living space to be used for food and beverage, entertainment, fireside gatherings, and family games. And we absolutely provide easy to navigate site access for both pedestrians and bicyclists. Our design diversifies the streetscape scale through architecture, landscaping, signage, and art to encourage an authentic and local expression. The parklets will provide spaces to work, a place to meet, or even just to sit and observe. And of course, we're adding more outdoor dining. But our collective vision will achieve this. However, none of these proposed elements are successful on their own. Next, please. COVID has proven the value of distributed gatherings over single larger gatherings, and we have designed purposeful touchdown spaces throughout our property. Our collective experience, for those on the call, proves that F&B and groceries are tested solutions for revitalizing centers. The grocery will drive footfall. It will serve the needs of our current and future visitors with the soon-to-be open bridge. A well-functioning grocery is what ties this all together and attracts the tenants to make Bay Street all it can be, and it is critical to its success. Next, please. We're here tonight to touch on our previously submitted food terrace as a newly activated gathering space. Our project for this workshop is the grocery, the Emeryville Green Way extension, and the Bridge Landing Plaza. We hope to give you a glimpse into future phases to help you understand our entire vision. Next. We are creating an urban environment addressing the needs of pedestrians and cyclists. We are reactivating underutilized spaces to expand and extend more people spaces, as shown in this diagram. While the proposed plaza is smaller in front of the grocery, we believe the distributed gathering across our project site allows in excess of 3 times the existing plaza area. We have proposed to transform food terrace common area as a go-to place to gather, a much larger plaza at the Bridge Landing, activation of the Greenway extension, new parklets, outdoor dining, and additional gathering spaces on North Bay Street. As shown in the figure and consistent with the vision, we believe we are in substantial PDP conformance. Next slide. Therefore, tonight we request a PDP amendment to this current plan. Next.
Hi, can you all hear me? It's Barry Bourbon.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Hi, so I am a principal at Gensler, and I've been working similar to Jill in the profession for about 30 years, and really focused on retail architecture. And the interesting thing is that I have a direct history on the project over the past 4 years, starting with the previous ownership and working on some design concepts with them. But unfortunately, during this time, I've really continued to see the center's overall decline in appeal, with many continuing vacancies, as has been pointed out. So I'm really excited to be a part of CenterCal's vision for the reinvention at Bay Street, and I agree that this existing condition is going to require a really substantial catalyst for change, and we're seeing that tonight through the new anchor grocery proposal. Next. The original PDP, it really included very little discussion of the terrace. There was only a reference to indoor-outdoor dining venue near the cinema complex. But I'd like to describe our new envisioned community and social activation concept. Next. As you can see by the current condition, there's really no utilization of this prime space. And please keep in mind that the prospect of an adjacent grocery anchor has really led to food and beverage tenant interest in the terrace spaces. So I think this pairing of the daily needs and social offering are really essential at driving activation and attracting successful, relevant retailers to the rest of Bay Street. And I fear that without the grocery anchor, there's a decreased viability in the terrace happening. Next. The terrace will feature a remodeled grand stair, which will be highly visible and easily accessible to the grocery shoppers due to the removal of an existing overhead bridge element that's kind of covering the stair currently. The terrace is directly adjacent to the staff's proposed plaza on Bay Street, which we saw earlier. And this elevated outdoor space was previously really reserved for the restaurant tenants and circulation without being a true public gathering space. But now we're envisioning it as an outdoor living room environment open to all. Highlights of the space include new windscreens, a fireplace, highly flexible hospitality furnishings, fire tables, and areas for games and music and other programmed community activities. Next. Next slide. Oh, sorry. I think there's back one.
Sorry, one moment, please.
Okay, yes, that's perfect. We envision the accommodation of more than 200 seats with a much more comfortable, safe, and family-friendly outdoor experience for those who live and work nearby to hang out and enjoy life. So that's a glimpse of the food terrace. And next, I would like to hand it over to Ken Lowney.
Thank you, Barry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. My name is Ken Lowney with Lowney Architecture, and my colleague Eric Price and I have been working on grocery stores like this, infill vertical grocery stores, for about 20 years across the country, and we've seen how they are able to activate whole neighborhoods and shopping districts. So really excited to be thinking about the opportunity here with you all. Next. The development that we're talking about tonight immediately has to do with the grocery store, which is indicated with the letterhead grocery store, that white rectangle. The Bridge Landing Plaza, which really is the terminus for the South Bayfront Bridge, and a multi-path path connecting the bridge to wider network of various paths throughout Emeryville and the Bay Area. Next. On the left are the existing conditions, and I just want to point out two things here. We looked at saving the building, but because of the column spacing and beam heights, we're unable to do that to fit a contemporary grocery store. But we were able to maintain and keep the loading dock position, and not only that, but actually the curb cut for the loading dock. Next. So this is our proposed grocery store. On the left is the parking field on top of the building, and on the right is the grocery itself. The entry is in the bottom right corner, the southeast corner, and you get from the parking deck to the ground level to enter the store through an elevator at number 4 or stairs at number 3. The red color shows the sort of customer area. It's surrounded by that turquoise-looking back of house. And the mustard-looking color is the loading dock. There's 2 ramps that lead up to the parking. On the north of the plan, there's a one-way ramp up, and the southern side is a 2-way ramp up and down, and the only way off the roof is down that ramp. And just to the right, below number 4, you can see some teaser parking, which we'll touch on later. Next. So we have, this is the primary circulation option that we have been presenting for this project thus far. And we have 2 options for you tonight, and sort of cascading through the illustrations and renderings we're going to show you. And this is the one that we've been presenting up until now. And it involves a one-way circulation around the block, parcel B, that has the grocery store. And so to park here, you have to come off of Shell Mound, take a right or a left on Ohlone, go down Bay Street, and either take that first right up that one-way ramp, or continue around past that front door corner, past the teaser parking at the bottom of the page there, where it says Southern Bay Street, and then take a right up that ramp with 2 arrows going up and down on it. And so it's basically a one-way street, and that offered a lot of opportunities for easy wayfinding and parking. But in listening to the comments for the past few months and thinking internally about the design, and most particularly in conversations with the grocer, we have another proposal for your consideration. Next. And so when we hear a good idea, we're open-minded, and we are proposing to do what somebody have suggested, which is to provide a pedestrian-only zone south of that first ramp up and just ending where the plaza and the front doors are. So it still has to have a function of allowing fire trucks to circulate around the building, but it would be protected from all other cars most of the time, unless there's a fire or some emergency, with bollards preventing people from driving onto this area. So it's really a pedestrian zone that's protected. Cars cannot go there. So it would be, full of people for events and whatnot. So you still can get to that northern ramp off of Ohlone Way and taking a right off Bay Street and get up onto the grocery store. The difference is it's not a one-way circulation pattern around the whole block. Instead, there's a two-way street on the southern side of the grocer. So you take a right or a left in off of Shell Mound onto the southern end of Bay Street. And you're presented with a few options. You can see teaser parking in front of you. And if you can see if there's no parking, then you take a left and you go and you park on top. Should you see something, make a mistake, and drive in, we've provided a turnaround area at the end of that, right where the bollards are, so you can easily turn around, not get stuck in traffic, and come back out and park on the roof. So, and so in addition to providing that pedestrian zone, the plaza, I think this scheme also has the merit of taking some pressure off of the Ohlone Way, Bay Street intersection, leading to that one-way ramp. So now people will be able to enter in two different intersections to park here. And so it'll provide more opportunity in that regard. Next. So the renderings I'm going to show you really are contemplating the original option that we've been showing. And so you can see, you're looking down Bay Street, existing bollards are removed. You have the speed table to notify automobiles that they're now in a more pedestrian-oriented area. You can take that first right up the ramp or continue down Bay Street, go around the building past the teaser parking to have that second ramp up. The second option, which has bollards just after that ramp that leads up on the right to the roof, would disallow that car that you see that's driving away from us on Bay Street would be impossible, because there would be bollards preventing that from happening. And instead you'd have people walking and milling about and enjoying that part of Bay Street. Next. The building is composed of several different elements and materials, trying to make it visually interesting and exciting. The darker material is phenolic resin panels, and the silver material is corrugated metal. We really try to bring a lot of light inside the building, but also allow people on the outside to see what was happening. So there's a lot of glass that goes up to 15 foot tall that wraps the building and does inside-outside connectivity. You can see that this rendering shows the Bay Street being open, which is our first original option, but in this revised proposal, the closure of that south end of Bay Street, this would have bollards on the far right and the far left that would prevent cars from driving on it. Next. The entrance to the grocery store is on either side of this corner. You can see people coming down off the roof on these stairs. On the right-hand side, or elevators, you can see a patch of corrugated silver. Those two doors are the elevators coming from the roof, and it leads you to this little plaza. There's a variety of different types of seatings and planted configurations and shading devices. Next. And so really trying to have a high-quality, visually interesting, inviting area that allows people to interact with the built environment in a variety of different ways, seating arrangements, and whatnot. Again, there would be bollards, and if where the number 12 is, would be about there, or there would not be, depending on the scheme that we move forward with. Next. And these are just some of the elements that we're thinking of animating: the hardscape and landscape around the building, sculptural, useful and interesting, benches and bike parking and planters and whatnot, just to make it really fun and an attractive place to be. Thank you. I'm going to pass it off to Marco now.
Thank you, Ken. Marco Esposito, principal at SWA. I'm a landscape architect, and I've been working over 3 decades on creating vibrant city spaces, outdoor spaces. You know, it's been wonderful what the city has done to create the Emeryville Green Way system. And then with the South Bayfront Bridge opening up in a few weeks, what a fantastic connection to bring people from the east side of Emeryville into the west side and onward to the bay, and of course, crossing Bay Street. So it's really fantastic given the relatively modest amount of connections between the different parts of Emeryville. So we're very excited about that opening up in a couple weeks. Next, please. And as everyone's been saying, we think that this project, the grocery with the Emeryville Green Way extension and the Bridge Landing Plaza is just a fantastic opportunity to weave all the things that are happening in Emeryville together right now. As Craig mentioned, Bay Street is a wonderful asset and has wonderful bones, but it needs to be more vibrant, and I think we know how to do that. That's what we love to do, and it's fantastic that the Emeryville Green Way is coming right now, and so this idea about slimming Ohlone Way and expanding the Bridge Landing Plaza. You can see the bridge stairs on the left side there. Of course, right now they just come down to a narrow sidewalk. And as Ken just mentioned, this also shows that Bay Street south of Ohlone is opened up to one-way traffic flows. Of course, it was designed, as staff mentioned in the staff report, to be two-way traffic, but we don't think that actually makes sense here. We think the one-way is the right gesture to activate the street and connect all of Bay Street together, notwithstanding, as Ken just presented, sort of this alternate idea. Next, please. So this, of course, is a very recent photo, and the bridge opens up in 2 weeks. And you can see that where the stairs come down is just a small space with a certain amount of clutter, a lot of pedestrian ramps, a wide street. Apologize, someone has a lot of background.
Already. Ty, can you mute yourself, please?
No.
Ty. Go ahead, Marco.
Thank you. And so you can see for the past year during the construction of the South Bayfront Bridge and connections that the Ohlone Way has been functioning beautifully with less of the asphalt, and we would love to take advantage of this as part of the project to expand the Greenway to have great walking connections and biking connections. Of course, towards the bridge, there's a sloped walk that allows people with strollers and shopping carts and bikes to be able to cross.
Found it?
Cross. And so, again, there are many, many things that we're doing at this, location.
Scratch me as always.
Hi, can you please mute yourself immediately? Thank you.
When you look at these drawings, they can be very subtle, but if you look at the amount of clutter that's there, the amount of space that's taken up with the curb ramps, you can see there's retail kiosks on the right. You'll see that all of that changes when we bring all that pavement that's kind of behind the fencing up to sidewalk level. You really create a very substantial people place, and this is where people are going to want to be, because this is the confluence of the Greenway and of Bay Street. And of course, this was not known to the original planning team 25 years ago when this was in design. So we think that we've started in the right direction to really make this wonderful outdoor living room for Bay Street and another wonderful outdoor living room for Emeryville. Next, please. So here's the after rendering. The street slimmed, the paving brought up to sidewalk level, a generous multi-use path as per city plans from a decade ago, extending to and from the bridge and the stairs and the sloped walk. And you can see there's places to sit and meet people. We have enough seating for 80 people or so, and even a substantial fire table feature that's kind of at the base of the stairs, some distance from the stairs, but as a real sort of a meeting place that, kind of a destination. Next, please. And here it is in plan. Again, when we have just the one lane south, it's a relatively modest width between the detectable warnings. The rust color area there, it's about 16 feet. And then fire requires a little bit more per the staff report. We've already worked on the fire radii, so this all accommodates that. And you can see the amount of seating, you can see the fire table there. And in addition to that, the generous multi-use path, which allows everyone to get to and from the bridge, to Bay Street, to Shell Mound, and onward to the Bay Trail and even the bridge. So really, as Craig mentioned early on, repurposing, kind of rebalancing the asphalt with people space adjacent. Next, please. And maybe this helps, ground level sort of compresses everything, but here you can see, again, the street is slimmed. It's functionally worked great for the past year. And then you can see the area, the emphasis in red of the plaza that has never been a plaza before in this way. And it really occurs right where you'd expect it to be, right at the confluence. And so I think this will really be transformative. And of course, the Greenway extension includes reshaping some of the street lanes along Shell Mound as well. And you can see where that orange curb line will be per the proposal. Next, please. So as Craig mentioned, we're also going to share some of the vision studies that we've been doing for North Bay. These are not part of the project, the grocery project, but these are the kinds of things that we'll be looking at soon to just bring the people energy all along the fantastic Bay Street, which has been really a bit too quiet, frankly, for what it could be and should be. Next, please. So I just described the area on the left, the Bridge Landing Plaza and the Greenway. Then you can see the 2 blocks of Bay Street running north to Brunswick and to Christie, and the Hyatt that would be sort of on the right end there. And we're looking at a number of different things to potentially make the sidewalk more usable, have restaurants spill out, cafes spill out on the restaurants. Is there a way to better use the Brunswick delivery area, still allow the functionality, but use it better? And then one of the things that Craig has been pursuing is really activating the north end of Bay Street with fantastic restaurants and more outdoor dining. Next, please. And, we were a part of Santana Row, so we know how to do this. And, it's really fun to be here. It's great when all the storefronts have tenants in them and everything is just really fun to be. And it all works. You can see that all the modes are right there near each other the way they are on almost all Bay Area successful retail main streets. Next, please. So here's the mid-block condition at Brunswick, and you can see there's a fair amount of clutter again. There's sort of some kind of art bollards, and there's ramps and things like that. And we think that this is the kind of space that's just crying out to be repurposed, reshaped, to be better used. Next, please. And so this is kind of the vision. It's the same amount of physical area between buildings, but it really makes it a pedestrian focus. You bring up the street locally to sidewalk height, which means you eliminate all that wasted space of ramps and such. The Brunswick, which is the little street to the left of the view there, left of the vans, is a very important delivery street for the condos above, and that function is integrated here. But it's kind of pedestrian and people forward, and the other uses tuck into it, and they do it just fine. We've done this in other places as well. So we think there's really an opportunity to enliven the same space that you just saw, which is currently not lively. Next, please. And then the Christie arrival, again, Bay Street has great bones, but you wouldn't know it if you came from northern Emeryville or Powell Street or Highway 80, or you were walking towards this way. You wouldn't get a sense of the charm of Bay Street beyond. So we wondered about how we might achieve that. Next, please. So again, looking at slimming the street somewhat, creating more people space, having restaurants spill out onto the adjacent area while the adjacent piece of land is not developed, screening it in a more handsome way, really giving the sense of Bay Street, bringing that all the way to Christie and Shell Mound, we think is a great opportunity for the whole center and for Emeryville generally. Next, please. And this is, again, this initiative that Craig has been pursuing, which I think is really fantastic, to have two main restaurant anchors at the north end of Bay Street, and we're looking at ways of maximizing the outdoor dining associated with those. So with that, I'd like to turn it back to Craig.
Yeah, that really concludes our presentation. I know we've gone probably a little longer than you would have liked, and I would just close with, the far end of North Bay Street is super important. It really is. I mean, to be able to, it's quiet, it's not active, it's set apart, and we really want to connect it. And one of the ways you connect it is with great food and beverage, and have outdoor seating, spill out, brew pubs, and we have great interest in these two spaces, one of which has never been leased. The space that says brew house literally has never had a tenant in it other than temporary. So we feel like this is a great opportunity. Again, it's part of the overall package, the overall plan, but it really, to me, this is exciting, right? If you're looking south on Bay Street and can visualize two great restaurants with outdoor seating, I think it would go a long way towards connecting the rest of the property together and creating that busy, active environment. So on that, I'm going to say thank you and turn it back over to City Council.
I'll take it. Thank you, team, for the informative presentation. Colleagues, with your indulgence, I will ask for public comment at this time and check with the city clerk to see whether anyone has submitted an online speaker card, and then we will get to folks who have raised their hands in Zoom.
I see no online speaker cards at this time.
Very good, and we can go ahead and take people in order. Okay. If you are joining us via Zoom, go ahead and use the raise hand feature to be recognized, or if you're calling in, press *9 and that will raise your hand.
All right.
I'll turn it over to the clerk to manage public comment.
I will recognize Bobby Lee first. Bobby, unmute yourself and go ahead.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hi, good evening. I'm a resident at Bay Street Condos and an HOA board member. This is a really transformative project that will be used by hundreds of Bay Street residents and the new residents coming over from the Sherwin-Williams site. And given the struggles that this property has faced over the last 2 years, we've got to move quickly to stop the hemorrhaging of the tenants in the mall by installing this grocery store. So I just want to call out for a quick moment, though, since the purchase of Bay Street, Senator Cal has been a super communicative partner on the property. They've engaged me, our HOA board, our property management team multiple times on this project and with operations at the property as a whole. And it's been a breath of fresh air. And we are very appreciative of it. And they have a strong desire to really improve this property. And we couldn't be any more excited to see how this relationship develops and to see their vision for improvement come to life. And, I fully support them in this endeavor and in this project as well. I do have a few minor concerns about it, and I've submitted some comments to the Planning Commission. Also, I copied the council as well. But just in summary, I think there is a missed opportunity here to improve the bus stop along Shellnow behind the loading dock in West Elm. Now, whether that's part of this application or maybe part of the city's view elsewhere. As chair of the ETMA, operators at Emery Go Around, the bus stop at Bay Street, which is shared with the AC Transit, is one of the most frequented stops in the entire Emery Go Around network, and there ought to be a reimagination of what sort of entry experience a transit rider would have from the bus stop. So I think that is a good discussion point to talk about in the future in this area. As a resident, there's always been circulation issues with this property. The design was built for a 2000s design, not today. So I urge you to take a look at the circulations and not just a parcel A and B issue, but as a larger circulation issue along the whole property, a property-wide issue. I personally have reservations about the road diet on Ohlone, and continued concerns that pedestrian bike conflict that happens at the intersection, along with that knock-on effect with traffic backups on the Shellnow Street. And I think there's been a lot of discussions around this, and I think that those discussions should continue. Also, there's a few neighbors and I have concerns about some of the relocation of activity to the center of Bay Street, but a lot of those details are still being worked out, and we look forward to hearing about that. And lastly, I just want to ask that the council take into consideration the public comments and concerns that were surfaced in the Planning Commission study session. The commissioners were very thoughtful in their discussion, and I would just like to call that out. So in closing, I fully support this project. This grocery store will be phenomenal. Thank you so much.
And now I'll recognize Brian Donahue. Go ahead, you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I've lived in Emeryville for 40 years, and one of the advantages to having lived in the same place for so long is you get to hear not one, but two, sometimes 3 or 4 generations of corporate vomit about developing public space and making public space more active and more vibrant, and creating a main street or a downtown. And it's funny because what we're hearing here is the previous developer, Madison Marquette, who developed Main Bay Street, sold us on Bay Street using the same exact verbiage. We're going to create a main street. It's going to be vibrant. It's going to be active sidewalks, and we're creating a new downtown. But when in fact, what Bay Street really is it's a shopping mall, and it's the most insidious kind of mall because it creates a simulacrum of a real space. It's cartoonish, and it has a Disneyland sort of feel. And now we have the new developer with the grocery store trashing the old developer, saying that the old developer blew it. Well, that's what I was saying back in 2000, but I was castigated for not being on the team, and not being on the Go Emeryville team. Yay for Emeryville team. So now the old developer blew it, apparently, and now the new developer is going to make it vibrant, and he's going to make it, a wonderful place, a fun place to be, he said. But people know when they're being scammed. And this is a corporate space, and it feels like a corporate space. It's a shopping mall. So, shame on the council for for buying into this. I think we should have, be able to be critical of creating a phony simulacrum, and we should be trying to create a real place. A place that actually that's not a simulacrum. I remember back when the 40th Street was developed, the developer told us it was going to be not unlike the Champs-Élysées, he said. So there's all this overheated talk every time a developer comes in, and then we get this corporate feeling space. Emeryville has moved from a real place when I first moved here 40 years ago to now a corporate space. It's filled with shopping malls. It looks and feels like anywhere USA. And I mean, to the extent that you guys are being hoodwinked by this like overheated, rhetoric from these developers, I say shame on you. The challenge is to create a real place.
That's your time.
This is a shopping mall.
All right, and seeing no more public speakers, we'll go ahead and close public comment on this item and bring it back to council for deliberation. There are a set of questions before us, beginning with the question of a PUD/PDP amendment. Now, colleagues, we saw a revised presentation this evening that took into consideration comments that were received from the public, our various committees, and our planning commission. I believe it was Mr. Lowney who showed an additional slide that showed some evidence of hand drawing, which I appreciate. It seems like the team was working up to the last minute to get us some sort of compromise presentation. So bringing it back to the Vice Mayor and to Member Medina for comments, questions. Member Medina.
Yeah, I have a couple of clarifying questions. Are we being asked to consider this with the addition of the moved plaza that is conformant with the Planning Commission recommendations?
So is this your question for staff or for the applicant?
I guess both, whomever can adequately address that, but like how I respond to the questions in the staff report greatly depend on whether or not we're considering this with that plaza in there or not.
I think my guess is that they'd like to know our preference between each path. One would require a PUD/PDP amendment, but I'm going to throw this question to Mr. Ramey with CentraCal.
Yeah, I mean, you answered it very well. I mean, we've been working on this. I mean, although it's hand drawn, it looks like we just put it together. It's really has taken a fair amount of study because it has traffic implications. It has implications for the operations of the grocery store. And so there's a lot that goes into it, but we would like to hear your feedback on both. I do think that the one that was called preliminary or study set, the Planning Commission plan, we do think that that's consistent with what the Planning Commission and staff requested. So that was the goal, right? And I told them that when we had the meeting that I would study it, and we have. And I think if that plan was supported by City Council, we would endeavor to pursue that plan and to get. We have a little more study to do, but I think we could do it quickly. And if it was acceptable to all parties, that's one we could try to pursue.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Can we also, for staff, can we put the questions we're supposed to be addressing back up on the screen?
That's fine with me, because there are only two of you I have to deal with.
Somebody remind me what slide number that was?
Just one before that, before this one that you have.
Okay, one moment.
Just go back one.
There?
Mary, if you could just clarify that these are questions for the City Council, despite what the slides indicate.
Yes, that is correct. My apologies. I was running out of time. These questions are for the council.
Yes, and to clarify further, the first two questions are for the original presentation that went to committees and to the Planning Commission. But now we understand that there's an additional proposal that includes the input based on the staff recommendation to relocate the plaza to a portion of Bay Street.
That is correct, Madam Mayor. If I may make a note, the staff report does mention that the Planning Commission in the deliberations said that if the applicant were to redesign the plaza area as suggested by staff, then they did not consider that this project would need an amendment to the PUD.
Yes. Correct. Member Medina.
And also to clarify, with the relocated plaza design, that would still keep the landing bridge design that was offered, correct?
That would be a question for the applicant.
Yes, yep, I can answer that. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Can the applicant also bring up sorry, I'm literally being attacked by a cat from behind. Can the applicant bring up the slide that showed the public's, the space for people that was referenced that said it was 3 times as much space? I think that was maybe slide 6.
That is, Sherry's got control of the slides.
Okay.
There were so many slides.
6, you say?
Maybe. It was in the first part.
That one?
Yeah, I think that's it. Can you zoom in a little bit?
I don't think I can in this mode.
Okay, I was just gonna ask the applicant if like street space and space in front of garages was being counted as people space in this calculation. It kind of looks like that to me.
That would be a question for Mr. Rainey or one of his consultants, please.
Marco, are you still on? I mean, I'll answer it this way. I mean, I think what we're looking at is when you repurpose vehicular space for pedestrian and bicycle space, along with the outdoor plaza areas, along with the food terrace, along with the parklets and the opportunity to add outdoor seating on far North Bay Street, I think those are all the areas that are going into the calculation. Marco, maybe you can.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and so it doesn't include any vehicular space.
Okay, but is that not like a parking lane on the top left?
Top left. The idea, working with the traffic engineers for the Greenway extension, would be to eliminate one right turn lane on Shellmount Street, and so that's what the tan space on Shellmount is. Is that what you're referring to?
Okay, so you're counting just the space in between those two.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
It's just a really small map that it's difficult to see on the screen, that's all.
Understand. Yeah, it's all non-vehicular space.
Okay, thank you so much for that clarification. Those are the questions that I needed answered.
Great, thank you, Member Medina. Vice Mayor Donahue, do you have any clarifying questions before we get into our comments?
No, I think it was pretty clear in the presentation.
Okay. So again, there's a presentation. There are components to the presentation. There's the original presentation that was submitted to Planning Commission and the committees, which the public has commented on as well. And then the developer has developed an alternate proposal that fleshes out staff's counter proposal to relocate the plaza. So in order to answer our first question about the PUD PDP amendment, that would be regarding the first proposal where vehicle circulation would reopen where the plaza is currently. However, Planning Commission has indicated that if the developer were to develop a plan to relocate the plaza to where was suggested, then the PUD PDP amendment would not be necessary. Is that clear to you folks?
Yes, very clear.
I think I understand that, yeah.
It seems, can we offer our opinions now that it's clarified?
Yes. Kick it off, Scott.
I think that it's a good plan to have that plaza like the staff designed there. I think that could work well, and that seems like that's going to help the cause and create a nice public space that we can use. I also think that I have more ideas for this development, which I think would be exciting. There is another bridge that could be made between the garage and the food deck. Just a pedestrian bridge that would be fairly small, light. You could even have, say, glass blocks like the Reading Bridge over Sacramento River where they use steel and glass blocks. So it could be light and airy, but you could have this connection between the food court and the garage, and the rooftop parking over the grocery that would really further tie the spaces in a great way and make it so that a certain number of people would park in the vast existing garage to go to the grocery store. So it would increase the potential for parking for the grocery store dramatically, I think. And I think your grocery tenant would really like that. And I think pedestrians would like that too, to go to the grocery store and come up to the food court that way. Also, I think that the city owns a triangular lot across Shell Mound next to Temescal Creek and 880 there that has sat dormant. We had proposals in the past for that to be a car lot where cars were going to be sold, but the city really did not do that. I see that as a possible partnership with this entire project. So we could maybe have some additional public space there that would make this entire part of Emeryville more vibrant. And, you know, it's something that we've talked about as even having a connection to the Bay Trail via the center bore underneath 880. There's 3 bores for the creek. The center bore is large enough that
Scott, I apologize, but our scope is limited this evening to the.
Yes, you're right. I'm a little out of bounds there.
Yes, the parcel under development. Even the developer was kind enough to share with us their plans for the northern part of Bay Street, but that's not even something that we're contemplating today. That was just for context. So what we're looking at is that grocery building. We're looking at the circulation, and we're looking at changes to the plaza really tonight. So if you don't mind limiting your comments to those.
So I think they're agreeing to the staff plan is excellent. And I think they could do things with lighting on the parking at the top that would shield any direct lights or car lights going into the condo owners across the way. It's a matter of design. I think that would be very easy to do and make everyone happy.
Good point, Scott. Member Medina, did you want to weigh in on the original proposal versus the amended proposal that takes into account staff recommendation?
Of course. I'll start with the amended proposal because that's easier. I think that would be an adequate replacement, which according to Planning Commission might not require a PDP amendment, and I would be excited to see that go forward. If the proposal involves the removal of the plaza area without another plaza area that is closed to vehicular traffic, that would probably require an amendment in my opinion, and I would be interested in seeing a plaza area still be created that is completely closed to pedestrian to vehicular traffic, because in my mind there is a massive difference between a bunch of scattered little plazas which you have to cross vehicular traffic to get to, and a completely closed pedestrian thoroughfare where you can have a child walk next to you safely without having to worry about them getting run over. And as I have suggested previously, I think that another place for the plaza, it could be north of Brunswick on Bay Street between New Brunswick and Shell Mound. And especially with the plans for parklets and outdoor dining, I think that would be a natural fit if the current relocation plaza idea is infeasible for some reason.
Very good, and I will concur with my colleagues. I appreciate the developer going back to the drawing board to consider the comments made by Planning Commission And I would say the vast majority of public comment that I've heard has mentioned the Plaza, emails I've received, and as well as our various commissioners. So I do think we need to pay careful attention to what the public wants. They want a public gathering space, and the Plaza is a very important part of that. And so again, I'm grateful for your reconsideration of that. And I agree with Member Medina. If we need to vary from that plan, I do think we need to go the amendment route for the PUD PDP, but I'm hoping that we can just move forward in short order with the Plaza relocation, which actually answers question 2. Does the the council agree with staff's suggestion of keeping Bay Street closed to vehicular traffic south of proposed rooftop parking entry ramp and creating a new relocated plaza in this area? And I believe that we're all in favor of that, but please, Member Medina, if you have comments.
Yeah, I do support that. However, I would also add that looking at the bike and vehicular conflict being created by having bikes coming down off that bridge and then having cars turning right across them into the center. And I understand from our discussion at BPAC that currently the applicant's traffic study doesn't substantiate having a light there, but I just can't see how this isn't going to become a cause for congestion, a cause for conflicts between cars and bikes, which none of us want. My suggestion to the applicant, and frankly my strong preference for this design, would be that we shift the bike traffic north so that there is not a direct conflict. And it seems like the easiest thing we can do to set ourselves up to have fewer problems in the future. So yeah, I support this if we eliminate the right turns of vehicular traffic across our fancy new bike lane.
Member Medina, is there a slide that you saw tonight that would illustrate that circulation issue? Because I'd like to see what you're talking about.
I'm sure the applicant can pull up the slide that shows the traffic flow. Or tell Sherry which slide it is.
Yeah, if you could let Sherry know what page to go to.
Just scroll until somebody tells me.
Yeah, keep going. Okay, go back. One more. Okay.
I mean, sure. Yeah, so as you can see, you've got a, this is not the best one. There's
no, maybe go back a couple more slides. Sorry. There we go.
There we go.
Right. So we're having cars come in here and turn right across this bike lane.
So what street are the cars on? Ohlone? Is that what you're talking about?
Running right from Ohlone onto Bay Street.
Mm-hmm.
And what we could simply do is shift the bike path north and have like a center running one to the protected intersection, which I totally think having that bicycle path as a connectivity point is amazing, but I just don't see why we're putting it behind where the cars will be turning right. It makes zero sense to me.
I see. So you want it on the north side of Ohlone?
Yes, I want to literally eliminate bike vehicular traffic by design.
Yes.
I'm also going to throw in that I think we should have a pedestrian crossing behind where the bollards would be if we shut down that plaza area. So again, we can by design eliminate pedestrian and vehicular conflicts.
Very good. Would the applicant like to respond to that notion? Marco or Craig?
Craig, this is Marco. I can take a pass.
Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment. Of course, cities are interesting in that at every intersection you have all those conflicts that we're discussing and that we look to figure out a way to minimize and kind of weave through together. I'm a bit, if we move the bikes to the middle of the street, they're kind of within the street environment, right? If we move them to the north side of Ohlone, then we may have conflicts, if you describe it in that way, between the vehicles that are turning left from Ohlone into Bay and from Bay crossing, et cetera. So in a very broad terms, this would be no different than any of the cycle tracks that occur along Christie, between Shell Mound and Powell, and then along Powell to the Bay Trail. So while it is a crossing, I don't know that it's any more of a conflict than any of the other crossings that we have in the wider city pattern.
So to clarify, I don't think those are good or adequate for bike safety. I think we should, as a city, be doing better. And as we have this opportunity to completely reimagine a space with mixed modalities of transportation, and we spent $30 million on a bike and pedestrian bridge and completely depleted our CIP, we should make sure that is a first-class, world-class bike facility. And the way to do that is to put a protected bike lane through the middle. Because if you're not going to be having cars drive all the way through down Bay Street, they wouldn't be crossing that anyway. So we can just put bollards up or something, or have it elevated. There's a way to do it. There's a way to have them move through that space without having to be in the, so if they're in the middle, there's no reason for them to be conflict between vehicles and bikes.
You know, I think we'd be happy to sit down together and go through it. You know, I'm an avid biker as well, and I actually commute, not just recreationally bike, and love to walk. So I sympathize with these kinds of things, and we're definitely thinking along the same line. So I don't know, maybe there's a way to meet offline. Again, you know, if you do it on one side, or you do it in the middle, or you do it on the other side, I think that there might be, you know, some crossings of some kind, all of which I think are quite manageable.
Okay, happy to meet offline. My final note on bike circulation will be...
I don't mean to interrupt, but this is actually the place for the council to give that feedback. And so I don't necessarily think these conversations should be taken offline, because this is the point of the meeting. I just wanted to insert that.
Okay. I appreciate it, Andrea.
Councilmember,
my thoughts on bike lanes.
I think maybe one of the struggles is just that we're not around the same piece of paper. So I'm not trying to preclude the good study session. I think it'd be all easier if we were in the same room together, and we'd be able to get out, you know, trace paper and draw the thing. So I'm definitely not trying to preclude that. I don't know an easy way to graphically depict the various ideas and potential crossings that might occur in each scheme. I think the good news right now is that Temescal Creek and the the pedestrian environment there is being expanded by almost 20 feet, sort of, you know, changing out, slimming Ohlone Way, increasing the pedestrian / bicycle way. That's kind of what's shown here, and it's a direct shot to the sloped walk that's along the rail tracks at the end of the bridge. So I think that we feel pretty good about the geometry here. But again, if we were sitting in the same room together, I'd love to sketch with you.
Of course, and I'm going to do my absolute best to describe my thoughts to you verbally, and public works staff, I'm going to apologize in advance because they know how bad I am at doing this. So I believe that if you have cars coming off of Shell Mound, turning onto Ohlone Way, that's going to be moving east, and then turning right onto Bay Street, by putting the bicycle traffic, the bicycle lane north of that, you're eliminating that right turn over the bike lane conflict. Now, by having it in the center and not hugging the other side of Ohlone Way, you're simultaneously preventing the conflict from people moving south on Bay Street. And would they still be able to turn right on Ohlone Way in this design? No, you did Ohlone Way one way, didn't you?
No.
No?
Ohlone Way is two ways.
Okay, and if they're turning right, then it needs to be in the center, so that I don't see what the conflict would be, because you're not having cars go all the way down Bay Streets across Ohlone Way, right? Because that's going to be
they can. They can go all the way. So by moving the bike path in the middle of Ohlone, cars can still come down Bay Street, cross that path to get to that first ramp on Bay Street to go up on top of the park. So there's still that.
No idea what if you can't.
What, you're saying take that one ramp away on Bay Street? So we only have one
No,
ramp.
I'm saying that cars are turning right on Ohlone and can get to it from turning, from heading north on Shell Mound and turning right on Ohlone Way. So they would still be able to access that ramp there. You think people are going to drive all the way down through Bay Street to?
I'm saying it's possible that someone driving down Bay Street might have gotten there and realized they want to go up at that ramp, and that would create an intersection in the middle of the street.
Okay, well then they could turn left on Shell Mound and then turn left on Bay Street and access that ramp. I'm sure you're going to put excellent wayfinding up.
So they would then go left on Ohlone Way, left on Shell Mound, and left on South Bay Street.
Yes, if they're already starting from the complete top of it, I think that's not infeasible. I mean, obviously I'm saying study it, but I think it's an idea worthy of consideration to literally eliminate vehicle and bike conflicts. And, you know, this idea isn't a shock to you. I brought this up.
Yeah, I mean, this is Craig. I mean, it's again, we haven't put any limitations on the study of this intersection. We've had traffic experts looking at it. So I'm the first to tell you I'm not a traffic engineer. So I can't on this call say that we can make those changes because I'm not sure that we can. But I will tell you that, like I told the Planning Commission in the past, that we would study it, and we would study it here. But at this time on the call, I'm not able to say that we can definitely do that.
That's fine. This is a study session. I'm just giving you that feedback if that's something I'd really like to see.
Yeah.
And I'll support Member Medina that this council has consistently prioritized active transit, and that's the direction we're moving in for the whole city. So we hope that you do come through and study this in a serious way. Are those the conclusion of those comments, Member Medina? Yeah, so I think we're on number 2, and I think we were in agreement that the relocated plaza idea would be primary for consideration. Next up is building design. Does anyone have any notes on the choice of materials, color, or proposed design acceptable to the council? I actually like the design that was presented. I think it is reflective of many buildings in Emeryville, but I would love to hear from my colleagues.
I'm good with the design.
Okay, Member Medina, did you have notes on the design?
No. Design is not of buildings is not something I have strong opinions on versus design of bike lanes.
Very good. Next up is trees. Proposal includes relocation of 4 palm trees, removal of several other trees, and planting of new trees. And as noted, the tree removal permit is not required, but the city does have the authority to require existing mature trees be retained if feasible. And that is proposed for the palm trees. Does anyone have any notes on those changes with the trees at the site? Okay.
I would like to see more trees wherever possible to create a shaded environment for people to enjoy.
And then we're on to other issues. So outside of the circulation issues that highlighted by Member Medina, are there any other specific issues to the project that you'd like to address? Again, try to keep it within the development area that we're considering tonight. Member Medina.
I have a list of things I've noted.
All right.
So if we're going to move forward with the new plaza design, I have some notes on that. I think I'd like to ask that there be some hardscape amenities and perhaps raise the street level so that pedestrians can easily cross it. Because right now it's a street that has a curb that's lowered, and that is not the same as a pedestrian plaza that we currently have in the other space. Second would be that the kind of bollards used to block vehicular traffic be the kind that are very common in Europe, which are those automatic lowering ones when a emergency vehicle approaches, but that they are in fact hard bollards so that people do not just drive through that area. I think they'll be phenomenal just for public safety in general. Second would be to make sure there is a large, well-marked pedestrian crossing on the pedestrian side of the bollards so that pedestrians are encouraged to cross where it's completely safe, and again, eliminating pedestrian vehicular conflicts. Okay, those are my comments on that plaza. Other comments. I think the teaser parking should be time limited because I think it should be for people who are coming in for something quick or for people who are doing pickup delivery. I think that the Bridge Landing Plaza is phenomenal. I'm really excited about bringing that to make it a place where people land off the bridge. And because we are, putting that bike path through and connecting it, one of the biggest missing links we have right now in our plan is we are going to get that money to do our 40th Street redesign and have a two-way cycle track all the way to Bay Street. And then we also have a two-way cycle track on Shell Mound. And we have this gap. And the reason we can't really fix that gap is A, money, it's already going to cost a ton to do the 40th Street one, but also because there's the need to completely redesign the intersection, have one of those extremely expensive overhanging traffic lights, which cost like $500,000. I'm always shocked by how much lights cost. My ask would be to consider putting a bike path down Bay Street, eliminating one lane of parking and having a bike path go north on Bay Street from the bridge that then connects to the Shell Mound cycle track. That would completely connect our entire network all the way up from San Pablo through, I think, to Powell Street. Like, that would be a phenomenal accomplishment for the city. That would cause this throughput of traffic to the Bay Trail. I think that connectivity is one of the greatest things that you can bring to our city. What else did I have? Oh, for the bike parking, please include electric bike parking or else BPAC will yell at you, and me. And I really support Bobby Lee's comment about considering the bus rider experience because we do want to encourage public transit to and from.
Very good. Does that conclude your comments? Yeah. Vice Mayor Donahue, any parting words?
Well, I hope that we can have refined design going forward, meaning just keep design matters. Details matter, and that's my basic comment.
Very good. Thank you. I just want to conclude saying that as highlighting what Member Medina said, that the city has made significant investments in this property over the years, from the time of redevelopment activities to the very brand new bridge that we have yet to open. So we're very vested in this property, and as public speakers have noted, the mall is in dire need of revitalization. So I'm grateful to partner with Center Cal to really bring Bay Street back to life. I think this plan, obviously we're leaning towards the relocated plaza because I've heard the majority of the comments that I've heard from the public are regarding the plaza and maintaining that open space. It seems to be really important to people. And I think that can also address everyone's need to get this done swiftly, because if we went the PUD, PDP amendment route, I think that's just more meetings for us to discuss all of these details. And I do hope you take seriously Member Medina's issues about active transport and making Emeryville a great place for walkers, cyclists, people who are not in cars, people riding buses, and finding other ways to get around our city. And I just wanted to add, in addition to considerations for electric bike parking, it's a grocery store, so please consider areas for cargo bikes. A lot of people are moving away from cars, and we want to support those folks who want to pick up their groceries on a cargo bike, an electric cargo bike, if they wish. So those are my comments. And I will ask the developer if you have any clarifying questions for council on any of the comments that we've made tonight.
I don't have any. I appreciate all the comments. Thank you. I guess I'd have a question about more of a procedural question. Can I ask that, or is that?
You may.
Sure. So we talked about going, if we can make the study, I'll call it the study or alternate plan work, that we would go back, we would go to Planning Commission and potentially not need a PDP amendment, and that's what you guys are recommending. Along with that recommendation, I guess I would ask, what would the timing be before being able to go back to planning commission. What, I don't have their schedule in front of me or anything. Is that something that we could get on their December agenda?
And I see our planning director has joined us.
Yeah, I think, well, I'll just say I think that's a bit optimistic. But the schedule, I mean, it continues in January with the fourth Thursday of every month through 2022 until October, and then it switches in November. So any one of those meetings, I think it'll probably take a little while to flesh out the plaza design and some of these other details. We're also the city is also going to be doing a traffic study for this, which will also be looking at those conflicts and trying to come up with recommendations to resolve them. So I think December is a bit ambitious, but we can certainly get it on as soon as we can after that.
And Madam Mayor, I'm happy to jump in and say I'm happy to work with Mr. Bryant. We understand the important nature of this project, and I'm happy to sit down with him and talk through how we can move this forward.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Well, we will go ahead and close. Oh, Member Medina, go ahead.
I just wanted to say, I realize I've gone through my laundry list of, constructive criticisms for this project, but I'd like to reiterate that I think that this is a fantastic opportunity for our city to get a grocery store and to revitalize Bay Street. And I do want to thank the applicant for the amount of effort and thought into the multimodal transit that's already there. I think that protected intersection coming off of where our bike pedestrian bridge is phenomenal. I'm really excited about both that and the landing plaza, and I think that's going to attract so many people to come over the bridge to the new Bay Street. So I am excited about it. I'm just excited to make it so fantastic for the next couple of decades.
There you go. I share that excitement. Okay, thank you everyone. We're going to go ahead and close this meeting out. We are adjourned at 7:55 p.m. and I will await my city clerk telling me that we are ready to start our Mesa meeting at 7.
All right, I'm just going to take a moment to excuse some of the folks.
Yes, and if we could let Member Bowders back in when you're done.
He should be on his way, if not already here.
Is there a chance we could have a brief bathroom break?
Sure thing. Let's take a break for 5 minutes and return at 8:01. See you all soon. Start it again. Actually, we'll wait till Member Bowders turns his camera. There he is. So at your ready, Sherry.
I am ready.
Okay, very good. Good evening, everyone. The time is 8:01 p.m. and this is the City of Emeryville Management of Emeryville Services Authority meeting. Today is Tuesday, October 19th, 2021, and please bear with me while I read some introductory remarks. I'd like to state for the record that this meeting is being conducted by teleconference pursuant to the newly enacted Assembly Bill 361. The city was previously complying with Brown Act orders issued by the governor, which were aimed at containing the novel coronavirus, which expired on September 30th. The new bill gives local agencies the authority to continue to host virtual meetings until January 1st, 2024, so long as California is under a governor-declared state of emergency. In order to continue meeting subject to this exemption to the Brown Act, the City Council must make the following findings by majority vote no later than 30 days after it starts using the exemption, and every 30 days thereafter. The legislative body has reconsidered the circumstances of the state of the emergency, and either one, the state of emergency continues to directly impact the ability of members to meet safely in person, or two, state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. The City Council, successor agency, and Mesa Board will consider whether to make these findings at their respective November 2nd, 2021 regular meetings, and at meetings every 30 days thereafter until the governor lifts the state of emergency. City Hall is open to the public during regular hours, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Please check the website for planning and building counter special hours or to make an appointment. The agenda states that the public may view this meeting that is being live streamed online and on ETV and provide comment by submitting an online comment form, which will then be read into the record by staff. The comment form can be accessed by going to our main City of Emeryville website at emeryville.org and clicking on Council Agendas and Videos. Once there, you will see a link entitled Submit an Online Speaker Card. The public also has the option of participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom and may provide public comment during the meeting using the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. The Zoom call-in information was provided on the posted agenda, as well as e-notification and on social media. At this time, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Here.
And Mayor Martinez.
Here. Do I have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Member Medina, a second from Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. Are there any ex parte communications to report, colleagues? I did discuss item 7.1 with our interim city attorney, who's your name on the screen, Andrea, is Christine Daniel, if you want to change it.
I'm not certain what happened there. I've been having all sorts of issues. I wasn't going to jinx it. And
we've been having technological issues, but we're getting through it. So when you're ready to make that change, I mean, this is our Halloween special, so you would just have to put on a cardigan. Now's the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, please press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card or whether anyone has raised their hand to make audio comments.
I have no online comment cards, and I do see, however, one raised hand.
Very good. Speaker, you'll have 3 minutes.
All right, recognizing Brian Donahue, go ahead, please.
Okay, I listened to the discussion about the Bay Street grocery store, and there's a lot of talk about the Plaza, the so-called bridge landing plaza that's proposed. But what wasn't discussed was whether or not that plaza and the connections to it for pedestrians are truly public spaces or not. As we know, on Bay Street, the Bay Street Mall, these sidewalks, they're sidewalk-looking things, but it wouldn't be proper to call them actual sidewalks because that would imply that they were open to the public. As the five of you know, or the four of you know, the sidewalks of Bay Street are not actually sidewalks, proper sidewalks. They're corporate spaces, private space. And you, for instance, can't protest. Or you could protest, but if they didn't like it, the corporation didn't like it, you could be trespassed. So for instance, if a citizen didn't like Apple labor issues, for instance, and he held up a sign saying he didn't like it, he or she didn't like the labor issues that Apple Corporation engages in, he or she could be evicted or trespassed from the sidewalk, because those are not real sidewalks. Those are corporate spaces. It's not a real public sidewalk. It's a fake. It's a simulacrum of a sidewalk. It looks like a sidewalk, but it's not actually a sidewalk. That's the Bay Street. Mayor Medina is looking puzzled. It's true. Those are private spaces. You can be trespassed from those sidewalk-looking things at Bay Street because they're actually privately owned by the previously Madison Marquette. Now whoever owns Bay Street is the owner of those sidewalks. So if they don't like you, they can trespass you. So like I said, if you don't like the Apple Corporation, for instance, the labor practices, you can't say so. So those are fake public spaces. So the question, and it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, elephant in the room. Is the Bridge Street Plaza a fake public space? It's part of the Bay Street Mall. Can the public use that? Is that actual real public space like other cities make public spaces, or is it an Emeryville public space, which is the current trend is to make it to privatize it? Is that private space or is that public space? Could a person go to the future Bay?
That's your time.
And protest? That's my question.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no further public comment, that will move us to the consent calendar. Colleagues, is there any question? Otherwise, I am happy to entertain a motion in a second on the consent calendar.
I will move consent.
A second.
I have a motion from Member Medina and a second from Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. That passes unanimously, which will bring us to our single action item. And tonight, colleagues, we are considering a resolution. This is item 7.1. It's a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Management of Emeryville Services Authority approving an extension of the term of agreement of interim appointment between Mesa and Andrea Visveshwara as interim city attorney and authorizing the chair of the Board of Directors to execute the First Amendment to the agreement on behalf of Mesa. Colleagues, you will recall that we have a previous contract with our interim city attorney that goes through October 31st. And we have before us a contract extension through January 31st to give us a little more time to complete our recruitment process for a new city attorney. So are there any clarifying questions on this item?
No, but Madam Mayor, if it would please you, I'm happy to lay on the table a motion to approve this resolution.
Very good. Is there a second?
I will second. You need public comment first.
Yes, we will take public comment, but we have a motion and a second. And now I will ask the city clerk whether we have received any public comment cards on this item.
No online speaker cards and one
Okay.
raised.
We have one hand raised, and I'll remind the rest of the public that's joining us that if you're joining us by Zoom, you may use the raise hand feature, and if you're calling in, press *9 to be recognized. Speaker, you'll have 3 minutes.
Yeah, I would just raise my hand because it seemed as if you were not going to entertain public comment. So this is just a test to make sure that you are entertaining public comment. So thanks to Councilmember Bowders for keeping aware of that. And the public is allowed to comment on every agendized item. So thank you to Mayor Bowders for catching that. Or Councilmember Bowders, I'm sorry. That's it.
Okay, that's what you saw. Member Bowders, you are muted.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Just as 2 points of clarification, I don't want to take credit for being the person who caught anything. I didn't catch that, but I just want to clarify also to remind the city attorney that I understand the process as well, that a person may lay a motion on the table, which is what I did, which means it can be taken up after public comment. So I was in no way, by making that motion to approve your extension, by the way, suggesting that we wouldn't take public comment. I'm allowed to lay that on the table so the mayor can still call for public comment. I think we should give her the opportunity to do that before we comment on anything. There was no call for a vote. Thank you.
Just a question for clarification for our city attorney. That was my understanding too, Member Bowders, but can I not allow for a second before I call for public comment before deliberation?
You're allowed to accept a motion in a second. You must take public comment before you call for a vote or discussion. And we typically just allow the public comment beforehand. I was just trying to be courteous to move the item along by laying a motion on the table, which we're allowed to do, and you, I believe, should have been allowed to simply call for the public comment before being instructed. Understood.
Now, I'm clear on what we did. I think we're all in order now. Okay, so we've had our motion by Member Bowders, a second by Member Medina, correct? Is that right? Okay, yes. And those are on the table. And colleagues, is there any discussion? I just want to say publicly that, Andrea, I'm so grateful for you stepping up into this position. I think you've done a phenomenal job, and in partnership with your colleagues in the city and with the council. And I'm very, very happy that you have stepped up in this role. I think it suits you, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to work with you. So with that, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. That passes unanimously, and that will bring us to adjournment on this meeting. The time is 8:14 p.m. We have another quick meeting to get through tonight before we get to the main event, and I will wait till the clerk tells me that they are ready.
All set, thank you.
Okay, so this is, the time is 8:14 p.m. and this is the City of Emeryville as successor agency to the Emeryville Redevelopment Agency. Today is still Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. Madam Clerk, do I still, my introductory remarks from the previous meeting stand?
Yes, I believe they do.
Well, then, so can our roll call. We are all still here. So, colleagues, I will ask for approval of the final agenda. Do I have a motion and a second?
I will move.
I second.
Great, thank you. I have a motion by Member Medina, a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. Colleagues, are there any ex parte communications for this agenda? No. That will move us to public comment. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you are participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card or whether anyone has raised their hands to make audio comment.
No online comment cards and no raised hands at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I will go ahead and close public comment. That brings us to the consent calendar. Colleagues, if there are no questions, I'm happy to entertain a motion and a second.
I'll move the consent calendar.
Second.
I second.
I have a motion from Member Bowders and a second from Member Medina. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
That passes unanimously. And at 8:16 p.m., I adjourn this meeting. And when you're ready to go, Sherry, just let me know if I should read the introductory remarks for the final meeting.
I think reading it before Mesa is sufficient.
Okay, very good.
Sufficient, excuse me.
Whenever you're ready to go,
Right, I am ready, thank you.
Very good. The time is 8:17 p.m. Thanks for hanging in there with us, folks. We're just a little over an hour behind tonight, but we'll try to keep it moving. Welcome to the Emeryville City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 19th, 2021. We are all still here. Colleagues, are there any changes to the final agenda? If not, I will be happy to entertain a motion.
I move to approve the final agenda.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Donahue and a second from Member Bowders. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. There are no special orders of the day. Madam Clerk, are there any announcements of commission and committee vacancies?
Yes, just briefly tonight, thank you, Mayor Martinez. We are currently in the process of an open recruitment to fill unexpected vacancies. The seats we have are for a citizen to represent us on the Alameda County Mosquito Abatement District Board. We have one business representative vacancy for the Budget Advisory Committee, one community member vacancy for the Commission on Aging, and a business rep or resident for the Public Art Committee. The applications are due by Monday, November 22nd, and the appointments are to be made at the council's second December meeting. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Colleagues, are there any council member special announcements or reports on meetings attended? Member Medina?
I am sad to report the governor vetoed AB 1238, which I thank you all for supporting us, sending a letter in support of. That was the Freedom to Walk Act that would have decriminalized jaywalking. There were some other phenomenal pedestrian bills that hit the dust, but that is one that I am saddest to report on.
Very good. Member Bowders, did you have any?
Yeah, I just wanted to let members of the public and also the city staff know that the Bay Area Air Quality Management District yesterday morning conducted our last committee hearing at Stationary Source Committee on new emission standards related to the reduction of nitric oxide emissions tied to water heaters and furnaces in residential and small business buildings. And we have recommended for final publication the introduction of a rule that will probably be published for a comment period to begin at the beginning of December, in which the district is going to move first to align ourselves with South Coast, which is the LA area and the San Joaquin Valley, with what are called ultra low emission standards for water heaters and furnaces to take effect January 1st of next year. And then we will become the first air district in the nation to move to a completely zero emissions NOx standard, which would mean that all appliances in residential homes in the Bay Area 9-county service area, beginning in 2029, pending some equity investments from the state and some other things, would need to be a zero emission level for all new and installed products manufactured on or after January 1st of that year. And so that is something we need to watch for. It's going to significantly impact sustainability metrics for the city, but it's also going to need to just be carefully monitored by local governments for equity considerations, because to put in really old infrastructure homes, there may need to be some affiliated changes to wiring or service into the home in order to accommodate an all electric water heater replacement or furnace, and we're also looking and monitoring the cost of these appliances, and we're working with manufacturers across the country right now to ensure that there's an ample supply of those to the area. So it's a long way out, but it has I received about 380 emails from residents in support of our draft rule, and it will be published for final comment at the beginning of December, and the board will vote on that rule in February. It's been a very busy year, and I expect I've been notified I will remain chair of the Station Resources Committee for the coming year by the incoming chair, and we will be doing several other rules on waste management, recycling centers, landfills, and several other items next year as well. So I just want to let everybody know that there's a lot happening at the Air District to improve air quality right now.
Great, thank you, Member Bowders, for all of your work on that. Any other reports, colleagues? Okay, that brings us to the city manager's report, and I didn't steal your thunder this time, Christine, on the Harvest Festival, so because I don't have the details before me, but I hope you'll be able to share the date and time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's exactly, Mr. Jimenez sent me everything, so I'm prepared for that. Thank you, Pedro. The Spooktacular Harvest Festival will be Saturday, October 30th from 1 to 3 p.m. at the ECCL Blacktop area. It's a modified, modest festival this year. All ages are welcome. Masks are required. So please, everyone, masks are required. We will have goodie bags for children 12 years and under while supplies last. So again, we invite folks to join us for the Spooktacular Harvest Festival, Saturday, October 30th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at ECCL.
Very good, thank you. Colleagues, are there any ex parte communications to report for this meeting? Member Bowders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On item 12.3, I have exchanged emails with Andy Giuliano from Fish Emeryville, and also had emails with letters from several other commercial and sport fishing organizations.
Very good. Member Medina?
Yeah, I received emails regarding item 12.3 as well.
I received those same emails.
I did as well, and at least a couple of them are listed as late correspondence on the agenda, and the rest are available in the public record. That will bring us to public comment. Now is the time for public comment. Anyone who wishes to make comments related to items not on the agenda or on the consent agenda should have submitted your online speaker card by now. 3 minutes will be allowed for the city clerk to read your comments into the record. If you're participating in tonight's meeting via Zoom, please use the raise your hand feature visible on your screen, or if you're calling in, press *9. At this time, I will ask the city clerk whether any comments have been received via the online comment card, or whether anyone has raised their hand to make audio comments.
No comment cards, but one raised hand.
Very good. Speaker, you'll have 3 minutes.
Go ahead, please.
I've spent the last about 2.5 months trying to get the answer to the following 2 questions. Were trees number 13, 15, and 18 in the arborist report for the Sherwin-Williams project, were those 3 trees in the abatement order that was issued to Lennar Development for the Sherwin-Williams project as done by the Public Works Department? Those specifically, were those 3 trees included in the abatement order? Because the abatement order was unclear as to which trees were ordered to be cut down. So I asked that question about 2.5 months ago, and it took me about a little over 2 months to get an answer. And even when I got the answer, it was not entirely clear, but I'm pretty sure, and me and Lennar, Nathan Tuttle, the executive vice president of Lennar, who actually did the cutting of the trees, we both agree that it appears that the 3 trees in question were in the abatement order. The reason why I wanted to know that were they in the abatement order is because they should not have been cut down using the city's own metrics as to what are considered nuisance trees. I asked the city manager, are those 3 trees in the order? And it took her over 2 months to answer. And then when she finally did answer, it wasn't even clear. But so we just assume that, yes, Lennar should have cut those trees down according to the abatement order, although it was counter to the city's own UFO provisions for identifying nuisance trees. The next question, of course, since trees were in the abatement order, presumably, and they were cut down is in error. The question is why? Why were our 3 trees cut down? They were done, they shouldn't have been cut down, and they were, so why? It took me, again, 2.5 months to get an answer from the city hall, and it was excruciating trying to get an answer from city hall. And I finally got my answer, and the answer is, in effect, it is, we don't know why. That, the city manager and the staff. We don't know why those three trees were included in the abatement order and ordered to be cut down. These are the people's trees. They were cut down. They should not have been cut down because they were not nuisance trees, using the city's own metrics and being extremely, giving the city every benefit of the doubt as to whether or not those trees could be considered nuisance trees. The answer is no. Those 3 trees clearly should not have been cut down, but they were. And the city's response is, we don't know why. So this is not good enough. We need a better answer than that. So I think you should try to find out
That's your time.
a better answer.
All right, that brings us to our consent items. Colleagues, if there are no questions or anything to pull, I would be happy to entertain a motion and a second.
Move the consent calendar.
A second.
All right, we had a motion by Member Bowders, a second by Vice Mayor Donahue. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. There are no public hearings tonight, but we do have 3 action items, or 4, excuse me. We'll start with item 12.1. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville approving the purchase of artworks for the city's annual purchase award. And at this time, I will cede the floor to our staff to make a presentation.
And Amber, go ahead when you're ready.
I think Amber needs to be promoted from attendee.
I've now gained access. Good evening, Amber Evans, Community Development Coordinator. I have a presentation tonight for the Council and Mayor regarding the 2021 Purchase Award. And this is a recommendation from the PAC based on the recommendation of the selection panel regarding the nomination. Next slide, please.
One moment, please.
Absolutely. While Sherry's pulling that up, I'll start talking about the panel structure. It's the same every year in terms of its composition of type, meaning the Celebration of the Arts Board has representation, the city staff are represented, an outside arts professional, and a member of the Public Art Committee, and then a community member at large. And so this year we were joined by, now we can go to the next slide. Can we? Yeah. Klaus Lang from Watergate, Edith Bresnahan on the Public Art Committee, Regina Almagar, who served for years as a paid consultant to the project, came back to participate in the panel, enjoyed being on the other side. Darajan in our Public Works, and Kava has served on the board, on the panel before, and brought his enthusiasm again this year. Next slide, please. The panel works with us giving images of all the works that are available for sale. And this year we added the history of commissions, and I thought the council might be a little interested to know that of the 84 artists that were in the show, 36 of them have received some kind of support from the city, meaning they were either part of a prior purchase in our bus shelter program, will be featured on the banners we install next month within City Hall, or have been actually commissioned for works by the city, or commissioned by private development for inclusion in the public art requirements for private development. But after, and this was just given to give the panelists context to the artist's work and if it was represented elsewhere in the body of work the city has. Panelists were then toured the beautiful show we have there at Bay Street. It is still open if people have a chance to go through October 31st. But walked through the site and looked and picked up to 10 works to be considered, and then brought that back and compared that. And as long as 2 or more agreed, 13 artists were discussed for further consideration and ranking. And after the 13 works were nominated, 5 were nominated for individual scoring. And there was real consensus among the panel. 4 or more panelists recommended all five of the semifinalists. Next slide, please. Of the 5 individually scored, the purchase recommendation by Ronald Davis, his 2 works, Reuben Rogers and Christian Sands, are the title of the works, the names of the musicians featured in the works, got 97 points. This is about as close to perfect as we've gotten in the score. And I do want to note that this artist was the last year's nominee for honorable mention. So it was kind of the standard bearer of what honorable mention means to be waiting there. And the first honorable mention is an artist, I think this is his first year in the show, Ari Dallas with Man Dog Hellborn, and I will be showing some images, but you can see the point spread there. And then Linda Lee Boyd, who has worked in different media for many years, tried something new during COVID, and leapt to second honorable mention with that. And I believe some of these works have already been sold. If I could go to the next slide. This is Christian Sands. And then the next slide. The other work, and I'm blanking on his name as I see it before me, but we'll see it again next. The panel for both these works had different comments on both of them. These were 2 of 3 works offered by the artist, and the exquisite photography of both, the detail to the artist's work, the caliber of the artists featured in the work as well, and the multidimensionality of this. Next slide, please. The works are each, one's 30 by 30 and one's 24 by 36, so within 3 feet. And so with their purchase prices, the installation, which we assume will not come to this amount, but as a placeholder, we use just to keep it simple. We have a postcard that will be distributing. It's nice to work with a designer or photographer. He's already offered a layout to that. The reception will probably be smaller due to COVID, but we are talking about an outdoor reception at City Hall, 4 o'clock, December 2nd, the 125th anniversary of the city. And the 30th, this year represents the 30th anniversary of the art in public places. So while we maybe have to be circumspect in our partying, a good day to celebrate many things in the history of the city. And then additional administrative expenses. So the total budget for the project, $11,500, has already been allocated in the operating budget of the city. No additional buying authority is needed. Next slide, please. The honorable mentions, I mentioned these earlier. Ari, and then the next one, their names will be included. Ari Davis with Man Dog Hellborn, and then next slide, please. Linda Lee Boyd with multiple public work images. Next slide, please. The locations for the installation, interestingly enough, the Public Art Committee recommended some other sites, but always said whatever the artist would prefer would be ideal. And when I toured the site with Ronald Davis, there was a real a comfort with the 2 sites pictured here. They're upstairs and downstairs from each other, aligned with each of the 2 works being placed above the water fountains a little higher to avoid any spray, and then mirrored by works on the outside walls with these then in the recesses. That concludes my presentation. I'm asking for your approval of the commission of the two photographs and their installation, and then we'll be happy to invite all to a party out in the courtyard behind City Hall.
Okay, thank you, Amber. Colleagues, are there any clarifying questions on the resolution before us? None? Okay, I will go back to our city clerk to see if anyone has submitted public comment on this item or whether anyone has a raised hand. And I'll remind those joining us by Zoom, use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press *9 if you are calling in.
And I have no speaker cards at this time, but we do have one raised hand.
Very good.
Go ahead, please.
I noticed that Kava Masai, I think his last name was pronounced Masai. I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Kava Masai made it to he's on the board that helped select like visual artists for public monies in Emeryville. Kava. Now this is the same guy, he's an architect who gave us the Avalon building, called Avalon. It's on San Pablo Avenue at, it's at Adeline. It's a pie-shaped building. And it's, one of the ugliest buildings in Emeryville. And it replaced, he's an architect, so he's interested in visual aesthetics. And it replaced a previous building, which was built in 1915. It was called the First National Bank building. It was a classic high level so-called Beaux-Arts, the Beaux-Arts architectural tradition. It was a Beaux-Arts building, a pie-shaped building. Previously, arguably the best building in Emeryville, and I say this as a visual art professional. I have a degree in visual aesthetics from a design school, and it was arguably the most beautiful Emeryville, and it was torn down and what replaced it was this monstrosity as envisioned by Kava Masai. So he really lowered the visual elegance, the aesthetics in Emeryville, with his horrible building, the Avalon building. It's really remarkable how far down we were taken with that building. The previous, Beaux-Arts building that was sublime in its beauty. And to have this guy be on this visual arts committee, or to select, visual artists is sort of an abomination. And I think you should tell Kava that thank you. We're going to look for somebody else, because I think it's really makes a mockery of visual aesthetics, and I think we should be rewarding people that do this kind of thing to our town. Kava Masai, I'm talking about the architect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other public speakers, I will bring it back to my colleagues for, is there any discussion? Does anyone have any comments that they'd like to make? No, I would just like to say that this year's celebration of the arts is so great. If you have not had a chance to stop by, the level of artists that we have in our community is just incredible, and the actual celebration itself is really, this is maybe my favorite year ever for the display and just the collection altogether. So colleagues, is there anyone who is able to make a motion on a resolution that we have before us tonight?
I move approval of our resolution and those beautiful photographs. I look forward to them being a part of our city collection.
Very good. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Donahue and a second by Member Medina. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. And thank you to all of the artists who participated and to our special committee who did the evaluation for this. That'll bring us to item 12.2. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville requesting that East Bay Community Energy enroll all City of Emeryville municipal electric accounts in Renewable 100, which is 100% local, renewable, and greenhouse gas free service. So I will hereby turn it over to staff to give the presentation.
Yes, hi, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. I'm Nancy Humphrey from Public Works Department, and I'm here with this item about what service level from East Bay Community Energy the council would like to choose for the city's municipal accounts, for its in-house accounts. Next slide, please. So EBCE launched with 2 service levels in 2018. Bright Choice, which was slightly better than PG&E in terms of GHG emissions, and it was better, slightly better in terms of cost. And also EBCE Brilliant 100, which was 100% GHG free at a cost equal to PG&E's at the time. And so you chose Brilliant 100 for the city's accounts. And that's what we've been on since 2018. And we've been generating no GHGs from our electric use. We're obviously still generating GHGs from our natural gas. And we're going to be working on that in the next few years, I think. Next, please, Sherry. So some of these numbers differ from what's in the staff report, and that's because the 2020 data came out this month, since the staff report was written. So it's the same message, only kind of more strongly made. So Brilliant 100 is sunsetting. They're discontinuing it, and I'll give a little more detail on why on the next slide. And I know Mayor Martinez is very aware of why, but it's being discontinued. And so within EBCE, we have 2 choices of service level. We have the Renewable 100, which staff is recommending. It is 100% GHG free and 100% renewable and largely local, writ large. So there would be still no GHG emissions, greenhouse gas emissions, at a cost increment of 13% over PG&E costs. So our estimated annual electricity cost would go from about $111,000 now to $125,000. The other choice is Bright Choice, which at launch had fewer GHGs than PG&E's service, but now, for these reasons I keep hinting at and we'll get to, it is only 55% GHG free currently. So if we went with that service for city facilities and city accounts, we would increase our greenhouse gas emissions by 313 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. That's about 25% of our it would be additional municipal GHGs. The cost is 1%, roughly 1% less than PG&E. And so our estimated total annual cost would go from 111 now to 110,000. Next slide, please. So the real impetus behind having to sunset Brilliant 100 is that the EBCE board voted not to include nuclear power in its service to customers. And nuclear power is GHG free. So, and PG&E achieves about 45% of its GHG free power through the use of nuclear. Actually, a little more than 45%. And when Diablo Canyon goes offline in 3 or 4 years, all the providers will take that hit, and GHGs, all the providers that are using nuclear. So it's not that EPCE is going to be the only one that takes that hit. It's just the first one. Next slide. So given all that, given the large impact of the greenhouse gas changes of the Bright Choice account, staff is recommending that we move our municipal electricity accounts to the Renewable 100 service. We have to choose one or the other. We can't stay with Billy 100. So we're recommending that we stick with Renewable 100, cost increase roughly 13%, and we'd be avoiding 313 metric tons of CO2 equivalent each year. I'd also like to say that Alex DeGiorgio from East Bay Community Energy is here tonight. So if there are technical questions, we can call on him.
Great. Does that conclude your report, Nancy, or do you, oh, sorry, I apologize.
Well, yeah, no, that's only, so I don't need that slide, Sherry.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, that does conclude my report.
Great, thank you, Nancy. Sorry to cut you off.
Okay.
Colleagues, are there any questions for staff or any technical questions for our staff member from EBCE? Member Bowders?
Yeah, something that has never sat well with me about this item is I support what the staff recommendation is for what's in front of us, is that we don't opt in the whole city.
Let's just keep it to clarifying questions at the moment.
My clarifying question is, why didn't we bring that with it?
I can tell you that this was our hand was forced on this. We had to make a decision, take it to council by the end of this year. We had direction from council to revisit the community issue, which we discussed in 2017, 2018, but we'd be glad to revisit that and bring it back.
Okay, that will be, I'll wait for comments. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any other clarifying questions at this time before we take public comment? Okay, I will check in with our city clerk to see if anyone has submitted public comment on this item or whether any hands are raised. And for those of you joining us on Zoom, please use the raise hand feature to be recognized, or if you're calling in, press *9. Sherry, is there anyone?
We have no online comment cards, and I currently don't see any raised hands.
Very good. Now we'll bring it back to my colleagues for deliberation. Do you want to continue on that thread, Member Bowders?
Yeah, so I support the staff resolution, and I understand the timeliness requirement for Emeryville municipal city properties. I have no issues with it. I think it's in line with sustainability goals. I would like a future agenda item also before the end of this year to opt in all properties in the city of Emeryville. And as I said, when we made that original decision in 2017, I know there was a split vote. I just never sat well with me, and residents, I believe, can still opt out. And I just think we should opt everybody in and let others opt out. And as we move towards a greener, more sustainable future, I think we should revisit that discussion. That's it.
Very good. Thank you, Member Bowders. Member Medina.
I correspond myself with Member Bowders' comments.
Very good. Vice Mayor?
I'm just curious if you heard anything, Mayor Martinez, about PG&E's future grid charges.
I don't know what that's going to be, what CPUC proceedings, how they're going, but I suspect I'll get an update on that at our meeting tomorrow. East Bay Community Energy meets tomorrow at 5 p.m. for all interested parties. And if there is any update on future grid charges, certainly, they will want to offset any losses they feel from customers going to CCAs. That's taken care of through what's called PCIA, which is a power indifference charge. It's the offloading fee for all those customers who move on to CCA. So there are a lot of regulatory issues that we do keep an eye on at East Bay Community Energy. But as a separate issue, I think that this is a good move for our city, and I will support bringing back an item to consider not only residential, but I think we need to talk about our commercial sector as well for upgrading to renewable 100.
I support the staff direction.
Very good. Is there a motion on the resolution?
I move the resolution.
I'll second. Very good. We have a motion from Member Donahue and a second from Member Medina. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bouders?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue?
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez?
Aye. All right. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. We are now at item 12.3. This is a discussion on whether to send a letter from the mayor on behalf of the entire city council in opposition to proposed CARB commercial hovercraft sport fishing boat engine regulations. Now we'll turn it over to staff for a presentation.
Madam Mayor, this item was actually requested by Councilmember Bouders, so you will give him the lead on this item.
Thank you. I cede the floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and staff. As previously requested, the California Air Resources Board has put out a draft rule that is related to passenger vessel hovercraft for sport fishing. And this is a rule which, put in its best light, is aimed at cycling out old engines that are diesel engines on hovercraft. So hovercraft are actually, as a collective group, boats coming into the Bay Area actually produce more diesel emissions, not all kinds of emissions, but diesel emissions than trucks. And trucks and hovercraft are together very large contributors to diesel emissions. And the sport fishing industry recognizes the problems with this. It's the same with the trucking industry. Other industries that we see at the Air District are all working to eliminate and reduce different types of emissions. Local air districts such as BACMID do not have regulatory authority over mobile sources, which include automobiles, trucks, and boats and planes. And so those are regulated directly by the state at CARB. And in drafting this regulation, it's out for a public comment period right now. They have made a couple modifications and amendments to an existing rule that currently require Tier 2 engines on these hovercraft. They are going to require Tier 3 or 4 with certain diesel particulate filters. And in that rule, I believe there are several things that we should be paying careful attention to as one of the few cities that actually have a marina where we have passenger sport fishing vessels as part of our local marina industry base. And I know that there are a couple letters you've all received. I know that Andy Giuliano is here with his hand raised from public comment already from Fish Emeryville, and I would like to give them the opportunity, obviously, to speak at greater length, but just to cover the issue at a high level. There are a couple things. The engines that are being proposed to be used, the Tier 4s, there are no current safe standards or guidelines for how to put them into these types of boats, the size and nature of these vessels that carry passengers. The CARB rule does not have a Coast Guard review on it at this point, so it's not been deemed safe. And there are also some challenges with acquiring a new vessel altogether. And there are, the industry will tell you that there are some challenges in terms of estimates that have been made. This isn't in a public comment period. This is only a staff proposal at this time. And just as a person who sits on an air district board, I just want to share like in an ancillary sense that when these rules are at this phase, really the benefit of a municipality like us sending a letter raising these concerns is it will give the members of the CARB board space to ask additional questions of staff in the rule development so that it could be revised. There is a particular focus under state law in California on impacts, socioeconomic impacts, to not disparately impact certain industries or businesses. And the majority, if not all of the businesses that would be negatively impacted here are family-owned small businesses. And CARB's notes in its rules say that they cannot eliminate the possibility that they would be eliminating the entire industry potentially by doing this or putting these businesses out of business. That's not the purpose of rule drafting in these cases. So what we're looking at is the possibility of writing a comment letter that asks for any combination of additional things, either not segregating this type of vessel out from other harbor craft so that they are on the same timeline as the others. We could be asking for them to conduct additional review with the Coast Guard. We could be asking them to evaluate the feasibility of actually installing one of these engines in one of these existing types and makes of boats. We could be asking CARB to conduct analysis for what the cost of, and providing cost analysis for what the cost of replacing one of these vessels is, to show that it's perhaps not fiscally feasible, and then requesting that they actually provide grant money to the less than 200 boats in the entire state of California, of which a number of them are located here in Emeryville, to allow people to do replacement and to extend the replacement timeline. So that is a lot of information basically, and what I would just ask is that we do this. I will share, I didn't mention it probably during ex parte, but I will mention that one of the members of CARB, the board is made up, is a member from our air district, and that is Councilmember Davina Hurt from the city of Belmont. She is our representative on CARB. I have spoken to her briefly about this matter, and I just want to, for the members of the fish industry, the fishing boat industry, just let them know that she has offered and agreed to have a personal meeting with them and me to discuss their concerns if the city does write a letter on their behalf. So that would be the end of my presentation at a high level, and I would welcome public comment, and then I would actually, if there are technical questions about the rule and what does and doesn't work, I would actually defer to the members of the public who are experts in this space to have the staff or council questions answered if that's of interest to the mayor. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. At this stage, are there any questions regarding the report? Member Donahue.
I just have a few clarifying questions that I think Councilman Bowers might be able to answer. I guess this all has to do with diesel engines. How about the gasoline engines that these kinds of boats of this size sometimes have? Are they not required to have any of their engines changed, or because it is strictly about diesel engines that the rule has been invented?
So air district rules are designed to meet an emission standard. They don't actually mandate or require a specific technology. Obviously, there are only certain types of technology that will help either a stationary or a mobile source meet the emission standard. So if an emission standard is set that requires essentially the replacement of a technology or the upgrading of a technology, there will be a limited number of technologies that exist. And in the current case, because of the very short timeline that's being proposed, which would be by 2023 for boats to make this change, the only technologies that exist, they will tell you are incompatible with the fishing vessels that currently are in the water. It would require full vessel replacement, which is millions of dollars. So it's, to your question, it's not necessarily a gas or diesel engine. It's about reducing diesel particulate matter, and that's the standard that they're trying to reach. So if the gasoline engine is not doing that, it would not necessarily fall within the ambit of the rule.
Okay.
Did you have another question?
Well, just could they just replace their diesel engines with gas engines? Is the real question.
I think Mr. Giuliano would be able to tell you whether that's feasible, both for in terms of octane for moving the boat, and also for other safety and technological reasons about how the boat would operate if it was not using diesel.
So, colleagues, if we're ready for public comment, I will open that up right now. Now's the time for public comment, and I'll check with the city clerk to see if anyone has submitted a speaker card. I do see one hand raised. And if you're joining us by Zoom, use the raise hand feature to be recognized, or press *9 if you're calling in. So Sherry, if you would let me know if there are any electronic comments. Otherwise, please unmute our speaker and give them 3 minutes.
All right, I have no online speaker cards, so I will recognize Andy Giuliano for 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor Martinez, members Medina, Donahue, and Bowders. Just to clarify where we fit in the city arrangement, Fish Emeryville has a concessionaire agreement with the city. We maintain the financial records, pay a port tax, and manage all the reservations for the customers who come through the marina, who total close to 20,000 a year. I know most of the people in Emeryville don't realize there's a whole section of the marina down there, but it's one of the more vibrant areas in the Bay Area. So anyway, I know our time is limited here. I thank you for the opportunity to address this issue, which threatens our fleet. The Fish Emeryville fleet of 12 commercial passenger fishing vessels supports sport fishing, whale watching, marine education, and ecotourism from the municipal marina. 2022 will mark our 50th year in business in Emeryville, a tradition today that outnumbers the more famed locations of San Francisco and Sausalito. I'm the owner of Fish Emeryville. My name's Andy Giuliano. I also own part two of the sport fishing boats in the marina. I would like to express our concerns shared by our fleet. After surviving a 2020 global pandemic, it's hard to fathom that now we face even a more formidable opponent, the California Air Resources Board. We asked the City Council to oppose the current CARB proposed engine emission regulations that mandate technology that has not been developed for our fleet nor tested safe at sea. The Emeryville fleet, through the Carl Moyer program, has been actively retiring old technology diesel engines for over 15 years, as the technology has become available and economically feasible. The current CARB proposal is a death blow. CARB has publicly acknowledged that most of California's fleet will have to be replaced to comply with the proposal. New required engines combined with untested filtering technology, so massive in size and weight that they are not fit to install in our existing boats. The CARB Resources Board sponsored a California maritime study that concluded that added weight will make vessels unstable, unsafe for passengers and crew. Furthermore, the Maritime Report, which was 135 pages, reported there is currently any after-treatment system for this diesel technology, and there are no Tier 4 engines available to retrofit any of the existing vessels. CARB believes that family operations like the Emeryville fleet can simply design, build, and purchase new metal boats. They have grossly underestimated the cost of new boats and our ability to pass on the regulatory costs to our customers. New boats cost several $1 million, with the closest builders located in the state of Washington. Need I mention that the timing couldn't be worse? We're barely surviving the economic consequences of the pandemic. Adding insult to injury, CARB states existing boats, like the entire Emeryville fleet, will no longer be compliant and will have no resale value. CARB continues to overstate environmental impacts of our boats by combining commercially inspected vessels with our boats. Historically, commercial boats, which number 1,199, sell fish to customers direct. Our boats, which the state considers charter fishing boats, have always been regulated on a similar fashion. We have identical engines. We compete in the same industry. The new rules introduce an unfair standard which will decimate the recreational fishing community, denying residents access to the bay and ocean. Our boats are the public's access to local fishing and marine life. A vote in favor of the CARB regs is a vote to deny access to the working class citizens, along with our nonprofit partners, police athletic league groups, wounded warriors, and numerous local school programs throughout the Bay Area. And by the way, it's good to see you again, Andrea.
Great, thank you, Mr. Giuliano. Can I give you some additional time to respond directly to Vice Mayor Donahue's question about the feasibility of swapping out a diesel engine for a gas?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, thank you. So just inherent in the size and stature of the diesel engine versus a gas-powered engine, there's really not a comparable gas engine that would be suitable for any of the boats up and down the coastline. And as Member Bowders mentioned too, there would also be grave safety concerns with gasoline versus diesel, which has a much lower ignition point than gasoline. The boats, most of the fuel tanks and fuel systems are completely different for a diesel engine versus a gas engine as well.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Giuliano. Sherry, can you go ahead and mute Mr. Giuliano? Oh, seeing no other public comments, I'll bring this back to my colleagues for deliberation. Anyone want to weigh in on this? I do want to thank Member Bowders for bringing this forward, and I appreciate the work that he's done for the city and the community at large on BACMID. So I think that he has a good handle on how a granular approach could be more adequate when it comes to an issue like this and how it affects small local businesses. So I am happy to support a letter. Colleagues, any dissent? Do we need to take, this is an action item, Madam City Clerk, do we need to take a vote on this to write a support letter?
Yes, I think it would be nice to take a vote.
Okay, very good. Is there a motion on the table?
I will make a motion, Madam Mayor, but before I do, just to clarify, does the staff feel, in terms of the contents of the letter, does the staff feel that they have the information necessary to write a letter that would adequately, since it is a public comment on a regulation, to have all those components? Would you like us to enumerate what we would like in the letter? Would you like us to deputize somebody to write the letter with you? That would be my only procedural question for staff, so that you have the guidance you need. But I'm happy to lay a motion on the table to send a letter providing public comment to CARB, expressing concerns and asking them to evaluate factors that have been discussed and may still be discussed about this proposed rule.
Oh, City Manager, I thought I saw you starting to speak.
I don't know if I'm allowed to speak yet or not, so I'll wait.
Please, you have the floor. Go ahead, Christine.
I would recommend that the Councilmember Bowders write the letter for the mayor's signature, as he seems to be the most informed on this topic, certainly more than any member of staff. So if that could be included in the motion, and then we'd simply submit that to you, Madam Mayor, for your signature when it's completed.
Very good. I will make a friendly amendment to the motion to have Member Bowders do the first draft of the letter, please.
Accepted amendment.
Very good. We have a motion by Member Bowders, a second by myself. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye. And that brings us to our last item of the evening, action item that is. It is item 12.4. This is a resolution of the City Council of the City of Emeryville approving and consenting to an extension of the term of the agreement of employment between the management of Emeryville Services Authority, MESA, and Andrea Visveshwara as interim city attorney, and authorizing the chair of the board of directors to execute the First Amendment to the agreement. So this item is in conjunction with an item that we already passed earlier this meeting at our MESA meeting. That was agenda item 7.1 at the MESA meeting. And again, to reiterate, this is an extension of the interim city attorney contract, which was set to expire at the end of October. And if the resolution is passed and agreed to, then it will expire at January 31st, 2022. And this is in order to provide us additional time to complete the process for our city attorney recruitment. Colleagues, are there any clarifying questions on this item? No. Nope. Okay, seeing none, now is the time for public comment on this item. Madam City Clerk, has anyone submitted public comment on item 12.4?
We have no online speaker cards and no raised hands.
Very good, and no raised hands. And I'll remind the public that you would use the raise hand feature in Zoom or press *9 to be recognized. But I also see no hands, so I will bring this back to my colleagues for discussion. Colleagues, is there a motion on this resolution?
I'll move it.
Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, we'll go ahead and call the roll on this vote.
Councilmember Bowders.
Aye.
Councilmember Medina.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Donahue.
Aye.
And Mayor Martinez.
Aye, that passes unanimously. And again, thank you, Madam City Attorney, for your great work since April. That will bring us to department head reports. There's nothing on the agenda, so I'm presuming that there aren't any department head reports. Speak now or forever hold your peace. That brings us to future agenda item requests from council members. Colleagues, is there anything that you would like to request for a future meeting? Member Bowers.
Just consistent with item 12.2 to bring the residential and commercial properties back for renewable 100. I think that was it, but I'll check my email.
Yes. And I am in support of that. Everyone is in support of that. Very good. Thank you. Anything else, colleagues? I do have one item. We have been asked to consider a resolution in support of the Howard Terminal project. So colleagues, if you're willing to entertain that resolution, we can take a look at what is in it. I see some raised eyebrows, and not asking you for your support right now, but asking for your consideration at a future date. There, folks? Okay.
Still 3.
We have a majority.
Can you throw them out of public comment? We're about to get on that.
That's, well, the Board of Supervisors, you know, I'll stop talking after this, but there's a public meeting on October 26th, which we're not going to have time to weigh in on, but we will see how that goes. And after that time, we will be able to weigh in ourselves on whether or not to provide a resolution in support of Howard Terminal. So very good, colleagues. That is all I've got. Unless anyone else has any parting words, we'll go ahead.
Just that we need to stay on to take our photo. Yes.
Oh yes.
Everyone else will leave or go off screen, and we will take our annual Halloween photo.
Good point. We almost missed that. Okay. Well, this meeting is adjourned at 9:12 p.m. Thank you, everyone, so much. But you guys see.